Chapter 409. Both Dolk and Bai Cheng were foremarked Dozong, which was the Tao unification stage. Their spiritual senses could easily explore tens of thousands of kilometers. Their spiritual senses discovered that a flying boat was approaching them at a high speed. And they knew the person on the flying boat. They had just seen him 5 minutes ago. Is it that Jiang Xi? Bai Cheng was very surprised. No, be careful. He is comprehending the emperor-level Tao pattern secret treasure of the golden pattern Do Huang. According to Kosi's request, he can't leave the valley. Dolk looked serious. Seeing that the flying boat was getting closer and closer, he quickly sent a message with his spiritual sense, Jiang Xi, what's the matter? There was no response. 40,000 kilometers away, Jiang Xi was somewhat helpless. His spiritual sense was still at the late nascent soul stage, so he couldn't reply. Stop! Another soft shout came. The distance between the two flying boats was getting closer and closer. 30,000 kilometers, 20,000 kilometers, 10,000 kilometers, Dolk and Bai Cheng had long realized that something was wrong, but their spiritual senses didn't find anything unusual about Jiang Xi. They could confirm that Jiang Xi was not a fake. Speed up. Their flying boat suddenly reached sublight speed. Behind them, Jiang Xi was very confident. So what if he accelerated? The refining level of the Do pattern continent was low. With the quality of the flying boat in front, even if it accelerated, it couldn't get rid of his top-grade flying boat. There are differences in sublight speed. My flying boat can infinitely approach the speed of light. The one in front is at most 200,000 kilometers per second. So, almost instantly. The distance between the two flying boats was shortened to less than 1,000 kilometers. Finally, Jiang Xi's spiritual sense could send a message to them. Two friends, my Lord Kosi asked me to greet you on his behalf. Jiang Xi's laughing voice was transmitted. At the same time, he took out a one-time use top-grade spirit weapon, Soul Destruction Post. A purplish-black light flashed like a bolt of lightning. In front, Dolk and Bai Cheng were still in shock because they didn't understand why Jiang Xi's flying boat was so fast. Then they heard Jiang Xi's laughter. Lord Kos is greeting us. The two of them were a little confused. Before they could react, the purplish-black light silently appeared on the flying boat and directly penetrated their primordial spirits. Soul imprint. When the two of them died, their faces were still filled with bewilderment. The seventh divine guard of the Golden Vein Shrine was also penetrated by the purplish-black light. 2 4-striped Do Zongs and 10 3-striped primordial spirit Do spirits had all died. The power of the soul destruction scroll was terrifying. After losing control of the flying boat with golden patterns, it flew for another 100,000 kilometers before coming to a complete stop. Although Jiang Xi was equally shocked, he didn't hesitate for a moment and waved his hand to put the entire flying boat into his storage ring. Go! He drove his flying boat straight into the clouds. They passed through the blood-red fiendish aura above the land of the fallen gods and the heaven and earth barrier that covered the battle pattern continent. From the moment he made his move to the moment he left, the entire process took less than 10 seconds. For the sake of caution, even if he left the Do Tattoo continent and came to the universe's starry skies, he would not be able to do anything. Jiang Xi didn't stop either. He continued to fly away at sublight speed. After an unknown period of time, at the place where Dolk and Bai Cheng had died. Whoosh! Another flying boat arrived quickly. 2 figures appeared out of thin air. One of them was wearing black armor and exuding a terrifying aura. It was Kos. The other was a burly man. Of course, it was Tur, who was also a 4-striped Do Zong. At an altitude of 1,000 kilometers, the two of them could only see the blood-red fiendish aura flowing like a thick fog. There was nothing else. This is the location where the two of them sent me a message. The Golden Vein Shrine has just confirmed that the two of them and the 7th Divine Guard are dead. Kas frowned. His expression was not good. Sir, can you detect anything? Ter asked. Killing people silently. There is still a trace of Tao aura here. It's definitely not from the battle pattern continent. Kas' expression was solemn. Is it the extraterritorial demon clan? Ter was shocked. That's right. I remember that more than 80 years ago, the Fire Pattern Shrine's territory had news of the extraterritorial demon clan's arrival. Perhaps it's him. Kas nodded. The cultivators of the battle pattern continent relied on their physical strength to fight. Only the extraterritorial demon clan would use various Tao attacks. Kas was in a bad mood. The shrine had sent the messenger to deliver the Emperor-grade Tao pattern secret treasure to him. Now, the messenger was dead. More importantly, the Divine Palace emissary had an Emperor-grade Tao pattern artifact on him. Kas' eyes flashed fiercely. Only 4 people knew about the existence of the 5-colored palm. He, Jiang Xi, Duo Heir, and Bai Cheng. However, he was sure that Jiang Xi had not left the valley. Send a message to Jiang Xi. Kas suddenly said. Jiang Xi. Ter was stunned. Could it be that Jiang Xi had done this? Impossible. He did not see Jiang Xi leave. Besides, Jiang Xi's strength was not a match for the 2 4-striped dozongs. Moreover, there was also the 7th Divine Guard. However, this was Kas' order. While he was puzzled, he quickly sent a message to Jiang Xi. No response. Ter shook his head. Send it again. After a while, Ter had sent it 1,800 times, but there was still no response. Let's go back. Kas' face was gloomy. Soon, in just 5 minutes, the 2 of them returned to the valley on the flying boat. Kas, Ter, and the other 2 4-striped dozongs began to search the Sea of Blood. Due to the suppression of the Sea of Blood, even the stronger Kas would need a few days to complete this process. 5 days later, Kas saw the Black Priest robe and the communication bead 30,000 meters under the sea. It was obvious that Jiang Xi had disappeared. However, no one knew how Jiang Xi had left the valley. Even Kas could only dive 50,000 meters under the Sea of Blood. Therefore, he could not find the cave tunnel 100,000 meters under the Sea of Blood. Jiang Xi. On this day, Kas was furious. His powerful aura spread throughout the valley. As the strongest genius in the Dou pattern continent for thousands of years, he had been fooled. If he had only lost the Emperor-level Dao pattern cardinal treasure, he could still deal with the Golden Pattern Shrine's investigation. However, now that he had lost an Emperor-level Dao pattern cardinal treasure, he would have to face the joint investigation of the 5 shrines. This time, he was afraid that he would have to pay a huge price. Now, he could only place his hopes on Jiangxi's true identity. He hoped that Jiangxi wasn't an extraterritorial devil. As long as Jiang Xi was still in the Dou pattern continent, the 5 shrines could use special methods to find the 2 lost Dao pattern cardinal treasures. Kas understood that such hope was too small. Only the extraterritorial demons had that kind of Dao attack. Once Jiang Xi left the Dou pattern continent, they would not be able to find him. Chapter 410. Outside the boundary of the Dou pattern continent, in the endless starry sky. Jiang Xi used a wisp of his spirit sense to control the flying boat and quickly traversed through the starry sky. Most of his attention was on the 5-colored palm in his hand. The multicolored brilliance made Riverward intoxicated. After some comprehension, he already knew the difference between the 5-colored palm and the inheritance altar. The inheritance altar was left behind by the peak powerhouses of the Tao Alliance for the younger generations of the human race. Therefore, the Tao inheritance left behind is extremely detailed. As for the 5-colored palm left behind by the 5 Elements Combat Emperor, it was formed after his death. It wasn't left behind on his own initiative. Therefore, the Tao inheritance contained within is like a whole that hasn't been disassembled. It's very profound. There isn't a detailed analysis of the process and steps. Just like the Sword Dao inheritance on the Green Lotus altar, there were a total of 9 evolution processes. Each process was divided into different lotus transformations. This greatly reduced the difficulty and requirements for the later generations. Thinking of this, Jiang Xi lightly shook his head. No wonder Kosi said that one must become a 5-pattern combat monarch to be qualified to comprehend an emperor-level Dao pattern secret treasure. A 5-pattern combat monarch was a tribulation transcender cultivator. Tribulation transcenders had already transcended the heavenly tribulation, and their primordial spirit and body had undergone a transformation. It was naturally easier for them to comprehend the Tao of heaven and earth. For me, whether or not these Tao inheritances have a step-by-step analysis process, they can all be used as a reference for deductions on the experience panel. Jiang Xi's eyes shone with a divine light. He had already tried many times. With the 5-colored palm as a reference, he could deduce metal-type and fire-type Tao techniques. The deduction speed had greatly increased. 100 times the deduction speed. Exchanging a supreme-grade spirit artifact for an inheritance altar. It's really worth it. The one-time soul destruction scroll was only worth 1 million supreme-grade spirit crystals. How much was an inheritance altar worth? Priceless. Immeasurable. The entire Tao Alliance had only accumulated 44 inheritance altars after countless epochs. Now, he had one all to himself. This is my greatest gain from the Dou Pattern Continent Cultivation Mission. Jiang Xi carefully observed the 5-colored palm. Even the 10,000 or so Dao pattern blood crystals were not as valuable as this. It's time to end this. Before leaving, I'll go take a look at Shaolin. The distance from here to Blue Smoke City's Feng River territory is more than 2 trillion kilometers. It will take about 5 months. During this period of time, he would try his best to deduce the Vajra Dao art. If this is a success as well, then I'll earn even more this time. Of course, it was just a thought. Jiang Xi did not expect to succeed. He had tried to deduce the way of Vajra for 80 years, but to no avail. Thus, it was highly unlikely that he would be able to deduce it within 5 months. It was worth mentioning that he had refined a total of 12 Dao pattern blood crystals. His affinity with heaven and earth Dao was now 12 times higher than before. In addition to the 5-colored palm's 100-fold increase in the deduction of metal elemental Daoist arts, in total, it was 1,200 times. So it's not impossible. Jiang Xi smiled. Then, he began to deduce seriously. After only 1 day, the experience panel notification sounded. You have comprehended the path of Vajra. Experience points plus 10 million, Jiang Xi was stunned. Did he have to be so fast? He was not prepared at all. What followed was a pleasant surprise. It was too unexpected. He opened the experience panel to check the changes. Path of Vajra, no 15 million, although the deduction difficulty had increased greatly, the upgrade difficulty had not changed. It was still a normal rare Daoist art. 50 million upgrade experience points. Let's upgrade it to perfection first. Because the path of Vajra was not yet perfected, there were no changes to the 2 secret techniques, Dao Fusion Technique and Dao Pattern Technique. This was something that Jiang Xi had been looking forward to for a long time. Half a month later, his clone had refined enough spiritual fruits to upgrade the path of Vajra to perfection. At this moment, Jiang Xi's expression suddenly changed. Be it his original body or his avatar, 3 layers of 3-colored Dao pattern halos appeared on his body, then, a 4th color appeared on the 3 Dao pattern halos, golden light. The reason why Jiang Xi's expression changed was that this change was rapidly absorbing the spiritual power in his body. Immediately after, his body's strength also increased. It was slowly upgrading from supreme-grade spiritual artifact. Surpassing supreme-grade spiritual artifact. However, this change soon stopped. It had not reached the limit. I don't have enough spiritual power. Jiang Xi understood the reason. Although he had been using his clone to refine spiritual fruits, the speed of energy replenishment still could not keep up with the transformation speed of the Tao pattern technique. He opened the experience points panel again. Path of Vajra, 10 levels 50 000/50 000 Tao fusion technique, 4 paths 30 000/400 000 Tao pattern technique, 3 paths 30 000/400 000 This time, the Tao fusion technique and Tao pattern technique finally changed. The Tao pattern technique directly affects the body, so the change just now was the most obvious. I haven't reached the limit yet. Continue to upgrade. Jiang Ci was full of expectations. The Tao fusion technique of the 4 paths of heaven and earth brought about the effect of spiritual power amplitude x4. His current basic spiritual power amplitude was 2000 times. Under this effect, it could directly become 8000 times. The Tao pattern technique that refined the 4 paths of heaven and earth into Tao patterns allowed his body's strength to surpass that of a supreme-grade spiritual artifact at the 3-mark battle spirit stage. His strength had increased exponentially. I wonder if I'm more powerful now, compared to Kos. Jiang Ci was a little arrogant, but after a moment, he shook his head. Far from it. Kos could kill a 5-mark battle king. He was not confident that he could kill an immortal Tao expert now. Then, Jiang Ci's original body continued to deduce Tao techniques. His clone was refining the spiritual fruit to upgrade the 2 secret techniques that had just changed. At the same time, the flying ship was still shuttling toward its destination. 5 months later, they arrived at Blue Smoke City's Feng River territory. Jiang Ci put away the flying ship and stood in the starry sky. His body faintly emitted a powerful aura that shook the starry sky. Very powerful. He was praising himself. After the Tao pattern technique was upgraded to the 3-mark limit, his body's strength had increased again. To be exact, it was 10 times stronger than a supreme-grade spiritual artifact. Moreover, the Tao of Vajra is a metal-type Tao technique and is good at defense. With my current body's strength, even a supreme-grade spiritual artifact would not be able to break through my skin's defense. He might not be able to wield a supreme-grade spiritual artifact, but even a perfected Tao integration cultivator could use a supreme-grade spiritual artifact to cut him. He would not even blink. As for a low-grade immortal artifact, Jiang Ci had never seen one before and did not know if he could defend against it. Blue Smoke City's Feng River territory. Jiang Ci looked around the huge city. The joy brought by the increase in strength had dissipated. The True Wood sect was destroyed. His face was gloomy. The True Wood sect master was a 2-mark battle master and a top expert in the Feng River territory. How could it be destroyed? After some investigation, Jiang Ci understood the reason behind it. It turned out that the True Wood sect master had somehow offended the brother-in-law of the Feng River territory's lord. Then, under the Feng River territory's lord's attack, the True Wood sect was destroyed. The battle pattern continent also has such a melodramatic plot. A cold light appeared in Jiang Ci's eyes. Chapter 411. Jiang Ci went straight to the lord of the Fenghe territory. This 3-striped fighting spirit was equivalent to a cultivator at the peak of the primordial soul stage. However, he had no power to resist Jiang Ci. Soul search. Soon, Jiang Ci obtained key information from the lord's memory. The True Wood sect had indeed been destroyed. However, 10 years ago, an unknown 2-striped fighting master avenged the True Wood sect by killing the brother-in-law of the Fenghe territory's lord. Then, because he could not defeat the 3-striped fighting spirit, he fled the Fenghe territory. The lord of the Fenghe territory naturally remembered the appearance of this 2-striped fighting master. It was Shaolin. Shaolin has already become a 2-striped fighting master. Jiang Ci laughed again. When he first met Shaolin, he felt that this little guy was quite talented. He had a pure and kind heart and hid great courage. That was how the two of them met. Moreover, ever since Jiang Xi knew about the existence of the way of karma divination, he began to pay attention to things like karma and fate. Later, because of the assassination of the Black Cloud Territory's Lord and General, he was worried that it would implicate Shaolin and Xiaoyan. When he left the Black Cloud Territory, he wanted to take them away. However, Xiaoyan decided to stay and Shaolin left with him. In the end, Shaolin was arranged to stay at the True Wood sect in the Fenghe territory. Moreover, he also left a large amount of cultivation resources for Shaolin. Since he has become a two-striped fighting master, this little guy has most likely returned to the Black Cloud territory. The Black Cloud territory was 10 billion kilometers away. With the strength of a two-striped fighting master, it was enough to cross such a long distance. Jiang Xi did not continue to investigate and returned to the starry sky. He drove the flying boat toward the Black Cloud territory. At the same time, in the Black Cloud territory's lord's residence. The new lord, Yuan Ming, was also a two-striped fighting master. He was elected by the various families and forces of the Black Cloud territory after the death of the Qing brothers. Yintua City did not interfere in this matter. However, the power of the Black Cloud territory was still in the hands of the lord of Yintua City, Yintua. Almost every once in a while, Yuan Ming would visit Yintua, regardless of whether the four-striped fighting master wanted to see him or not. On this day, Yuan Ming came to the depths of the lord's residence with a serious expression. "Greetings, Lord Yintua." He bowed respectfully. Yintua, who had the appearance of a young man, wore silver armor. He only glanced at him indifferently and didn't say anything. Beside him, his disciple, that three-striped Dou Ling, white-haired young man opened his mouth and asked, "What is it?" "My lord, a spy from the dark department found someone who looks like Shaolin. However, the other party is also a two-line Dou Shi. This subordinate does not dare to act arbitrarily." Yuan Ming respectfully replied. "Two lines Dou Shi." This time, Yintua took the initiative to speak. His spiritual sense moved and covered the entire city. The entire Black Cloud territory did not have many two-striped Dou masters, so he quickly locked onto his target. Without a doubt, it was Shaolin. "Master, do you want me to capture him?" asked the white-haired youth. "No need. That person called Jiang Xi is the main target." Yintua shook his head. "Master suspects that Jiang Xi is also hiding in the dark. The last time Jiang Xi left, he didn't forget to take Shaolin with him. That means the two of them have a very close relationship. Shaolin is the best bait. Master's words are very true." Yintua pondered for a moment and said to Yuan Ming, "Announce to the public that the lord's residence will publicly execute the head of the Shao family, Xiaoyan, tomorrow." "Yes, my lord." Yuan Ming hurriedly took his leave. Yintuo's eyes were filled with murderous intent as he looked at the night sky. He had placed too much hope in his disciple, Chen Kai. However, this disciple was killed on the eve of his rise. And because of this, he became a laughingstock in the Fire Pattern Temple. If he did not take revenge, he would not be able to resolve the hatred in his heart. The next day, at the execution ground of the Black Cloud territory. The Shao family was considered a mid-tier family in the Black Cloud territory and had always been in control of the Fire Sparrow tribe. The news of the public execution of the head of the Shao family, Xiaoyan, caused a commotion. Many people still remembered what happened back then. They did not expect that after 80 years, Xiaoyan still could not escape death. "Grandfather." Shaolin, who had already turned into a young man, hid in the crowd and looked at Xiaoyan, who was in ragged clothes and had a withered face. He looked calm, but there was a ball of anger in his heart. "Executing grandfather at this time, they must have discovered me. Are they trying to lure brother Jiang out?" Shaolin sneered in his heart. Dream on. Even he did not know where brother Jiang was. How could these people find him? It was already noon. The Tao pattern cultivators of the Lord's mansion were ready to carry out the execution. Shaolin was also ready to take action. He did not know how many masters the Lord's mansion had hidden in the execution ground. However, the person on the execution ground was his grandfather. He could not just watch his grandfather die in front of him. Boom! However, at that moment, someone made a move before him. Among the group of cultivators from the Lord's mansion, a slightly skinny young man suddenly exploded and killed the two people who were holding Xiao Yan. Then, the skinny young man took Xiao Yan and left. This sudden scene stunned Shaolin. Two pattern do shi. Who was that? He did not know this person. The Xiao family did not have such a powerful master. However, Shaolin reacted quickly and took a step forward with the strength of a two-lined fighting master. As a two-pattern do shi, he directly cut down the cultivators and warriors from the Lord's mansion who were chasing after the skinny young man. He and the skinny young man took Xiao Yan, who was in a daze, and left quickly. In the Lord's mansion of the Black Cloud territory, even the Lord was only a two-pattern do shi. It was even more impossible for the others to stop two two-pattern do masters from robbing the execution ground. As a result, the entire Black Cloud territory was in chaos. At that moment, in the depths of the Lord's mansion, Yin Tuo only watched quietly. The white-haired young man was a little anxious. Master, let me do it. Don't worry. Jiang Xi is not here yet. What if he is only waiting outside the city? Don't worry. Everything within a 50,000-kilometer radius is within the range of my spiritual senses. Yin Tuo's indifferent attitude also made the white-haired young man relax. Both of their spiritual senses were locked onto Shaolin, who was running away. Are you waiting for me? Suddenly, a light voice sounded in their ears. Whoosh, a figure appeared out of thin air. It was a black-haired young man in black armor. Jiang Xi. Yin Tuo and the white-haired young man were furious. No, a four-pattern do zong. You are a four-pattern do zong. Yin Tuo was in disbelief. More than 80 years ago, the information he gathered from various sources showed that Jiang Xi was only a three-pattern do spirit. The white-haired young man's expression changed drastically. Without needing his master's reminder, he quickly retreated. A four-pattern do zong battle was no longer something he could participate in. You want to leave in front of me? Jiang Xi laughed softly. Whoosh! His figure flashed and he instantly appeared in front of the white-haired young man. Stop! Yin Tuo shouted angrily. He clenched his fist and wanted to stop Jiang Xi. The white-haired young man looked terrified. Jiang Xi came to kill. How could he stop? Boom! As he threw out a punch, cracks appeared in the surrounding space. The body was 10 times stronger than a supreme-grade spirit weapon. Its power was even stronger than the killer's shadow sword. Even if the body of the three-pattern do spirit was comparable to a superior-grade spirit weapon, the white-haired young man could not block this punch. He was smashed into pieces by Jiang Xi's punch. He could not be more dead. Chapter 412. Damn it, Jiang Xi, you deserve to die. Yin Tuo's anger soared to the sky. His eldest disciple had also been killed by Jiang Xi. Right in front of him. It's your turn. Jiang Xi's expression was indifferent. Yin Tuo suddenly calmed down, a cold light flashing in his eyes. Even he wasn't confident that he could kill a top 3-striped doling with one punch. But Jiang Xi had done it. This meant that Jiang Xi's body was stronger than his. Are you a genius of the Golden Vein Temple? Or a genius of the Earth Vein Temple? Yin Tuo asked in a low voice. Only those who cultivated Gold Dao arts and Earth Dao arts would have a body stronger than those of the same level. Me? A genius of the 5 great temples. Jiang Xi smiled. Humph. Yin Tuo snorted and then said coldly, "You are qualified for me to show my full strength." He flipped his hand and took out half a battle saber, emitting a terrifying aura. "This is a treasure I found in a ruin when I was cultivating in the land of the fallen gods. It should have been left behind by the extraterritorial demon. Although it is broken, it is still a king-level treasure. I once used it to kill a 4-striped Doling Grandmaster. A broken low-grade immortal artifact." Jiang Xi was surprised. It seemed that he really couldn't underestimate any 4-striped Doling Grandmaster. After all, this was a Dao integration stage cultivator. "Die!" Yin Tuo shouted angrily. Holding half of the battle saber, he slashed at Jiang Xi. His body that was comparable to a top-grade spirit artifact gave him great strength and speed. Just nice to test my limits. Jiang Xi was also full of fighting spirit. A broken immortal artifact was definitely not as powerful as a complete one. Otherwise, he would have turned and left. Body like a sword. Jiang Xi's entire body was like a sharp sword, turning into a sword light and directly went to meet the attack. In an instant, he collided with Yin Tuo's half of the battle saber. Clang! A huge explosion like thunder resounded through the sky. At the same time, a destructive impact spread out. The Lord's mansion, which covered an area of tens of thousands of square kilometers, was instantly turned into ruins, leaving behind a huge pit that was thousands of feet deep. Jiang Xi and Yin Tuo once again stood in the air above the liege's manor. "What? Impossible." Yin Tuo's face was filled with disbelief. Jiang Xi was completely unscathed despite his all-out attack. No, Jiang Xi was still injured, but it was only an inch-deep wound. This was a broken king-grade artifact. He had once relied on this blade to kill a 4-line dozong with strength similar to his own. "Congratulations, you've finally made me feel a trace of pain. Now, it's my turn." Jiang Xi laughed. After this exchange, he clearly understood the limits of his body. A low-grade immortal artifact could injure him, but it definitely couldn't kill him. Unless the one who attacked was an immortal Dao expert. Moreover, there was also a difference between the strength of a 4-line dozong. The exchange just now had allowed Jiang Xi to confirm that this 4-line dozong Yin Tuo was only equivalent to the initial stage of the Dao unification stage. Jiang Xi's body pierced through the air, heading straight for Yin Tuo. He didn't use any Dao techniques, only his body. He attacked with both fists, the most violent way of fighting. Impossible. Impossible. Yin Tuo still couldn't believe it. The broken blade danced in the air, causing the air to tremble. However, Jiang Xi wasn't afraid at all. His fists were like dragons, smashing out punch after punch. Clang clang clang. His fists smashed onto the broken blade, and the vast momentum spread throughout the entire black cloud domain. Under the suppression of absolute strength, all Dao arts and moves became mere decorations. Yin Tuo retreated step by step, and panic grew in his heart. He originally thought that with the broken king-grade artifact, he could easily kill Jiang Xi. However, he didn't expect that Jiang Xi was even more ruthless than him. His body could actually withstand his attacks. Is it a 5-line dozong? Yin Tuo couldn't help but have this thought. Impossible. If a 5-line dozong wanted to kill him, he wouldn't need to spend so much effort. Run. Yin Tuo didn't dare to continue fighting. Nothing was more important than his own life. Trying to escape. Jiang Xi laughed loudly. He hadn't had enough yet. It was the first time he had crushed a 4-line dozong who was equivalent to an early-stage Dao integration cultivator. Thus, the following scene appeared in the sky above the black cloud domain. A bare-handed black-haired youth chased after a silver-armored youth who was holding a broken blade, attacking wildly. It was obvious that the black-haired youth had the upper hand. That's Big Brother Jiang. Shaolin, who had already escaped outside the city, stared at the battle above the black cloud domain with his mouth agape. Big brother Jiang is very strong. That silver-armored youth looks like a four-line dozong, but in Big brother Jiang's hands, he has no room to fight back, the thin youth also said, but it was a woman's voice. A woman? You know Big brother Jiang too? Shaolin was even more stunned. The thin youth chuckled and reached out to wipe his face. Instantly, his appearance changed. Yun Xiang, Shaolin's eyes immediately turned red. The red-armored girl back then, Yun Xiang, had also grown up. Looking at Shaolin, she smiled sweetly. Beside her, Xiao Yan, who had already regained some consciousness, also smiled. Look, Big brother Jiang is going to win. Yun Xiang suddenly said. Shaolin hurriedly swallowed back the words he wanted to say and turned his gaze to the sky above the black cloud domain. The Tao patterns that Jiang Xi had cultivated included the Tao of sword, gale, parting fire, and vajra. There was attack, speed, explosiveness, strength, and defense. Such comprehensive attributes were not something that Yin Tuo could compare to at all. Yin Tuo only had fire-type Tao techniques and it was very difficult for him to shake off Jiang Xi's pursuit. Crack crack crack, the broken blade in his hand was already broken. After withstanding countless punches from Jiang Xi, cracks began to appear and it finally shattered into pieces. Fellow cultivator, please spare my life. We have no grudge. Yin Tuo was anxious. He was a four-line dozong and had a lifespan of 10,000 years. Now, he had only lived half of it and still had 5,000 years to live. Jiang Xi did not listen to this. He was not a 3-year-old child. Relying on his body, which was 10 times a supreme-grade spirit weapon, he was like a phantom, smashing punch after punch on Yin Tuo's body. Under the powerful speed and strength, Yin Tuo could not withstand it. Even though his body was comparable to a supreme-grade spirit weapon, it gradually collapsed. I will not accept this. Yin Tuo let out a furious roar before his death. In the next moment, Jiang Xi smashed him into pieces with one punch. In close combat, a four-line dozong is harder to kill than a Tao integration cultivator of the same level. This was what Jiang Xi was thinking. If it was an early-stage Tao integration cultivator, they would have been long dead after being smashed by so many punches. Of course, Tao integration cultivators in the original universe would have more attack methods and would not allow him to get close so easily. After this battle, Jiang Xi had a clearer understanding of his own strength. If it was just close combat, his actual combat strength surpassed early-stage Tao integration cultivators and was almost mid-stage Tao integration cultivators. In terms of Tao technique attacks, he should be at the perfected primordial soul stage or barely at the early-stage Tao integration level. If his cultivation could reach the primordial soul stage, his Tao technique attacks would definitely reach the early-stage Tao integration level. Tao integration level. Jiang Xi was full of pride. Back then, on Earth's first moon, he met his master, Taoist Gu, who was only a Tao integration remnant spirit. That was the first time he came into contact with a powerful Tao integration cultivator. Now, he had killed an early-stage Tao integration cultivator with his own hands. The one he killed with the soul destruction scroll did not count. That was not difficult at all. Chapter 413. Outside Black Cloud City, in the forest of the 100,000 mountains. Jiang Xi calmly accepted Shaolin and Yun Xiang's kowtows. If there was anything he owed Yun Xiang, it was naturally because he helped her take revenge for her family. Back then, the Yun family was destroyed by the previous ruler of Black Cloud City, the Cheng brothers, because of a mysterious Tao pattern secret technique. 80 years ago, he was the one who destroyed the Cheng brothers. However, in Jiang Xi's opinion, he still owed Yun Xiang a favor. This was because the Tao pattern secret technique he was currently cultivating was obtained from Yun Xiang when he first came to the Tao pattern continent. The power of this secret technique was already evident. After cultivating this technique, one could refine multiple Tao patterns into Tao patterns. Under the circumstances of cultivating 4 Dao patterns, he could easily kill an early-stage unification Dao Grandmaster even though he was only a peak 3-striped dueling spirit. It could be said that if he did not cultivate this Dao pattern technique, it would be very difficult for him to cross a large realm even with the experience points panel. In fact, his current cultivation level was still at the peak of the nascent soul stage. Jiang Xi guessed that this technique was very likely left behind by a Dao Lord level 5 Elements Fighting Emperor. This was because the 5 Elements Fighting Emperor had refined all 5 Elements Dao patterns into Dao patterns at the same time, hence the name. There was no doubt about the preciousness of a Dao Lord level technique. With that thought, Jiang Xi flipped his hand and took out 2 new storage rings, handing them to Shaolin and Yunxiang. This is a small gift before we part. Both of you cultivate well and we'll meet again if fate wills it. Jiang Xi left very decisively. After handing the items to the 2, he nodded at Xiao Yan and disappeared. Shaolin and Yunxiang once again bowed respectfully to where Jiang Xi was standing. Then, they checked the items in the storage rings. Both of them were shocked at the same time, followed by excitement and surprise. There was nothing else in the 2 storage rings, only 10 Dao pattern blood crystals. Both of them were 2-striped Dou masters and naturally knew the value of Dao pattern blood crystals. 10 Dao pattern blood crystals each was enough for them to cultivate to 4-striped dueling zone. Shaolin, where have you been all these years? Also, what happened? Xiao Yan was still a little confused. Shaolin and Yunxiang looked at each other and laughed. After that, Shaolin told Xiao Yan everything that had happened in the past 80 years, including the night they parted. After Xiao Yan heard this, he sighed. Jiang Xi directly passed through the heaven and earth enchantment of the battle pattern continent and arrived in the starry sky. In front of them, they could see a huge palace the size of a planet. It was the 6 Worthies Palace, which was in charge of monitoring the Dou Tattoo continent. Back then, he had entered the battle tattoo continent from this position. Now that he was leaving this place, it could be considered a perfect ending to this cultivation mission. After that, Jiang Xi directly crossed the void and arrived at the interstellar teleportation platform not far from the Palace of 6 Worthies. Before he could check the teleportation coordinates, he saw a figure flying in front of him from the Hall of 6 Worthies. Junior brother Jiang Xi, congratulations on completing the mission. The newcomer was a young Dao integration cultivator. He wore a purple robe and bowed to Jiang Xi with a smile on his face. Thank you, senior brother. Jiang Xi hurriedly returned the greeting. Since he called him junior brother, he was at least a 3rd heaven disciple. He was also in the Dao integration stage, so he must be very powerful. Although his current close combat strength was comparable to mid-stage Dao integration cultivators, that was only compared to ordinary Dao integration cultivators. 3rd and 4th heaven Dao integration disciples of the Purple Heaven sect were definitely freakishly powerful. None of them were weaker than Kas of the Blood Sea. Lord Perfected Lord wants to see you. Please follow me. The purple-robed youth smiled. Perfected Lord? Jiang Xi was very surprised. He followed behind the purple-robed youth and flew toward the Hall of 6 Worthies. At the same time, he used his communication bead to connect to the Heavenly Eye network and searched for keywords, Hall of 6 Worthies plus Perfected Lord. Soon, he found a lot of information. Perfected Lord 6 Worthies, an ancient Dao immortal who had existed since the Dao Alliance's heavenly court was established. He had lived for countless eras and his strength was unfathomable. That was the evaluation given by the Dao Alliance's heavenly court. It was simple, but it shocked Jiang Xi. How powerful was he to be regarded as unfathomable by the Dao Alliance's heavenly court? Why did such an expert want to see him? Could it be that everything he did in the battle pattern continent had been noticed by Perfected Lord 6 Worthies? Jiang Xi felt very uneasy as he stepped into the Hall of 6 Worthies. This enormous palace, which was comparable to the size of a planet, gave off a solemn and dignified feeling, as if it was a living body. The purple-robed youth led the way without saying a word. He brought Jiang Xi to the 9th floor of the Hall of Six Worthies. Although it was called the 9th floor, it was actually more than 100 million square kilometers in area. Roar! At the entrance, there were 2 winged black dragons bound by chains. They were roaring angrily. Each of the winged black dragons was over 1,000,000 feet long, and their bodies were emitting dark blue flames. The terrifying aura and pressure they exuded were very frightening. This is a great demon of the demon race? Jiang Xi was shocked. It's a 6th tribulation great demon. It's said that the perfected Lord captured it from the extraterritorial battlefield and left it here to guard the door. The purple-robed youth's voice was filled with pride. A 6th tribulation great demon guarding the door. Jiang Xi was envious. Why didn't he think of that? There were so many demon race bloodlines on Earth. He had to raise a few more to guard the door. All right, I can only send you here. Go directly to the 99th floor. The perfected Lord is waiting for you there. The purple-robed youth was very envious. He had cultivated in the Hall of Six Worthies for so many years, but he had only met perfected Lord Six Worthies once. Moreover, it was a group meeting. Meeting the perfected Lord alone. He didn't have that right. Jiang Xi reached the 99th floor of the Hall of Six Worthies alone. It was also the highest floor of the Hall of Six Worthies. At this height, it was as if he was in the endless starry sky. The view was very good. In front of him, a white-haired, black-faced youth sat cross-legged in the starry sky. His eyes seemed to be filled with stars as he stared at Jiang Xi. Jiang Xi greets the perfected Lord. Jiang Xi bowed respectfully. Perfected Lord Six Worthies looked at him expressionlessly for a while before he said leisurely, many of the sect's higher-ups are either optimistic about Zhiwei or Mu Ning. As for me, I've been optimistic about you since the beginning, so I've also placed a bet on you. Thank you for your kindness, perfected Lord. Jiang Xi thanked him. I remember that you mainly cultivate the green lotus sword Dao. Which transformation are you at now? The 104th transformation. Perfected Lord Six Worthies finally smiled. Obviously, Jiang Xi's cultivation speed of the sword Dao had also exceeded his expectations. He continued, it's fate that we met today. I'll demonstrate it for you. Whether or not you can break through will depend on your luck. Jiang Xi didn't know what was going on. Perfected Lord Six Worthies waved his hand and a green lotus that emitted a sharp sword intent appeared out of thin air. The starry sky trembled with it. This is... Jiang Xi's gaze was instantly attracted. Whoosh! The green lotus merged into his body. Boom! It was as if there was a big explosion in his mind. His mind was completely immersed in the green lotus. The 105th transformation of the green lotus sword Dao. No, it's not just this one. There's a 4th transformation. And this green lotus can analyze these transformations again, deduction. Deduction. Under the detailed analysis, his deduction speed increased by 1,000 times, or even 10,000 times. Jiang Xi would not let go of such a good opportunity. He closed his eyes tightly and was completely immersed in the deduction of the sword Dao. He was cultivating at a deeper level. Perfected Lord Six Worthies nodded in satisfaction. With another wave of his sleeve, Jiang Xi's figure disappeared from the 99th floor. Chapter 4:14. Purple Heaven Sect, 3rd Heavenly Layer, Daoda Continent. Jiang Xi had already sent a message in advance, saying that he would be back today. Therefore, Jiang Dudu had specially made preparations. In addition, Jiang Xi's 2 friends, Mu Ning and Yan Jiufeng, had also appeared here in the form of phantoms. Soon, the teleportation formation lit up. The 3 were about to go forward, but they discovered that Jiang Xi wasn't the only one who had teleported here. There was also a tall youth. The invisible pressure emitted by the youth made Jiang Dudu and the others apprehensive. Clearly, he was a tribulation transcender. Greetings, Supreme Immortal. The three hurriedly bowed. The youth said indifferently, I was ordered by True Monarch 6 Virtuous to escort Jiang Xi back. Wait a moment. The three looked at each other and didn't dare to say anything. They just waited there. Jiang Dudu was very anxious. She didn't know what was going on with Jiang Xi and thought that he was in danger. As for Mu Ning and Yan Jiufeng, they were shocked. True Monarch 6 Virtuous. He was a real high-level member of the Purple Heaven sect. They waited for 7 days, but Jiang Xi still hadn't woken up. With the help of the Green Lotus, Jiang Xi discovered that the efficiency of his deduction had increased by 1,000 times, or even 10,000 times. In just half a day, he had comprehended the 105th transformation of the Green Lotus Sword Dao and completely grasped the first 3 transformations of the Green Lotus. However, it wasn't over yet. The 4th transformation of the Green Lotus, the 1,000 Green Lotuses, meant that there were 1,000 transformations. In the next 6.5 days, he comprehended another 13 transformations. These 7 days of deduction and cultivation were almost equivalent to the previous 10 years of deduction and cultivation. It's about time. Jiang Xi ended the deduction. The Green Lotus that True Monarch 6 Virtuous had shown him had completely disappeared from his mind. There was no point in continuing the deduction. From 104 transformations to 118 transformations, True Monarch 6 Virtuous had given him a big gift. Most importantly, he had crossed the bottleneck of the 105th transformation. Under normal circumstances, it might take him 8 to 10 years to break through. This breakthrough in the Green Lotus Sword Dao has given me the confidence to deduce sword intent in 50 years, no, 30 years. Jiang Xi was very happy his breakthrough was different from others. Once he comprehended it, he could directly use the experience panel to upgrade his sword intent to the 10th level perfection. Sword intent was a special path. In terms of spiritual energy amplitude alone, it was twice that of ordinary paths. His base spiritual energy amplitude could reach 20,000 times. Together with the Dao fusion technique, it would be 80,000 times. When the time came, his strength would be greatly enhanced. Although Jiang Xi was looking, it wasn't the time to continue thinking about it. The moment she opened her eyes, she saw Jiang Daodu. Only then did she see the tall youth in front of her. Thank you, exalted immortal. Riverward hurriedly thanked him. He could also sense the other party's immortal pressure. There's no need to thank me. This is an order from the Lord True Lord. The young man shook his head slightly before teleporting away. Jiang Xi heaved a sigh of relief. Looking at the familiar figure in front of him, his face was full of smiles. After that, he spent a day with Mu Ning and Yan Jiufeng. After that, he accompanied Jiang Dudu to look at the stars for 3 days before he started cultivating again. Beside the spirit spring of Daoda Palace, Jiang Xi sat cross-legged while Jiang Dudu cultivated in Daoda Palace. Both of them understood one thing, they wanted to be together forever. He had to work hard to become an immortal, to attain the Dao, to become an immortal of the great Dao, and only then would he have endless years. Before cultivating, Riverward sorted out the main gains he had gained this time. 5-colored palm, Emperor Tier Dao Pattern Cardinal Treasure. It was formed after the 5 elements Battle Emperor, Dao Monarch, of the Battle Pattern Continent perished. It was equivalent to an inheritance altar. 2. Dao Pattern Technique, a secret technique used to refine the body. It is also suspected to have been left behind by the 5 elements Battle Emperor. Metal Elemental Daoist Art, the Dao of Vajra has already reached the 10th level of perfection. 4. Dao Pattern Blood Crystal, 14,568 pieces. It is a key item for cultivating Dao pattern techniques. After refining and fusing with it, it can increase the affinity of heaven and earth Dao techniques. Its other values are unknown. 5. Golden Light Palm, Emperor Tier Dao Pattern Cardinal Treasure. It was formed after the death of a gold battle emperor, Dao Monarch. It is equivalent to 500 billion experience points. 6. Experience points, 2,741 million, 11,826 million. Not only these gains, but my strength has also undergone a tremendous change in this trip to the battle pattern continent. Before he went to the battle pattern continent, his actual combat strength was only at the late-stage essence soul realm. Now, with the help of Tao pattern techniques, his close combat strength had reached the mid-stage Tao integration realm. Because he had comprehended the fourth Tao of heaven and earth, after using the Tao fusion technique, his Tao technique attacks could barely reach the early-stage Tao integration realm. The only thing I lack now should be weapons and treasures. Jiang Xi pondered for a moment. Before he left the battle pattern continent, the battle with the four-striped battle emperor Yin Tua made him realize his shortcomings. At that time, he only had the supreme-grade spiritual weapon, the Killer's Shadow Sword, and his physical strength was equivalent to 10 times that of a supreme-grade spiritual weapon. Obviously, he could not fight with supreme-grade spiritual weapons. If I had a low-grade immortal weapon, I could easily kill Yin Tua with my close combat strength. After all, Yin Tua was only at the early-stage Tao integration realm. Jiang Xi did not waste any time and directly entered the Purple Heaven Sect's treasure vault through the communication bead. Search for low-grade immortal weapon longsword. Suddenly, the information of low-grade immortal weapon longswords appeared in the three-dimensional phantom in front of him. Red Heaven Sword, low-grade immortal weapon, 100,000 points, Colored Rainbow Sword, low-grade immortal weapon, 90,000 points. Jiang Xi silently glanced at his remaining points in the Purple Heaven Sect, 17912. It seems that I have to submit the mission to have the money to buy it. The Battle Pattern Continent Cultivation Mission consisted of 2 mission objectives. If both were completed, he would receive 110,000 points. 1. Obtain a Tao Pattern Blood Crystal. Completion would receive 10,000 points. 2. Become a 2-striped battle master. Completion would receive 100,000 points. Afterward, he submitted the completion of the mission through the cultivation section of the Purple Heaven Sect's intranet. Not long after, a middle-aged Taoist emitting the pressure of an immortal Tao powerhouse arrived at the Taoda continent through the teleportation array. Greetings, Immortal. Jiang Xi respectfully bowed. The Tribulation Transcender middle-aged Taoist asked, "Have you completed both mission objectives?" "Yes." The middle-aged Taoist nodded slightly. "Not bad. Take out a Tao pattern blood crystal and display your Tao pattern at the same time." Jiang Xi did as he was told. The first mission objective was equivalent to using a Tao pattern blood crystal to exchange for 10,000 points. Well, it was not a loss. 1 million supreme-grade spirit crystals. Then, with a thought, 3 layers of 4-colored Tao patterns appeared on his body. What? The expression on the middle-aged Taoist's face changed from indifference to shock. He was shocked not because Jiang Xi had cultivated a 3-striped battle spirit, but because Jiang Xi had cultivated 4 Taoist techniques at the same time, and all 4 Taoist techniques had been refined into Tao patterns. Since the Purple Heaven Sect had already conquered the Battle Pattern Continent, the middle-aged Taoist, as an immortal Tao powerhouse, was naturally aware of the existence of Tao pattern secret techniques. Under normal circumstances, the Tao pattern secret techniques of the Battle Pattern Continent could only be used to refine one's body with Tao patterns. Only the legendary 5 Elements Battle Emperor's Tao pattern secret technique could allow one to use multiple Taoist techniques to refine one's body with Tao patterns. Chapter 4:15. The 5 Elements Combat Emperor was a Tao Lord level expert. Even in the vast universe, he was an existence that stood at the peak. "You obtained the inheritance of the 5 Elements Fighting Emperor?" the middle-aged Taoist asked anxiously. This time, it was Jiang Xi who nodded calmly. There was no need to hide such things. The better he performed, the better he would be treated in the Purple Heaven Sect. As expected, the middle-aged Taoist smiled. "Very good. I will report this to the perfected lords. You have accomplished your mission. Thank you, exalted immortal. Jiang Xi thanked him respectfully. At that moment, the middle-aged Taoist hesitated again and asked, "Do you have any extra Tao pattern blood crystals? The sect can purchase them at a price of 10,000 points each." "No, I barely managed to get a few Tao pattern blood crystals. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to cultivate to a 3-stripe fighting spirit." Jiang Xi looked regretful. "That's a pity." The middle-aged Taoist sighed. He knew that Jiang Xi was lying, but the Purple Heaven sect wouldn't interfere with a disciple's personal opportunity, let alone force a sale. "Exalted immortal, our sect should have Tao pattern blood crystals for sale, right?" "I didn't find any in the treasury," Jiang Xi asked. "Of course, but only immortal Tao experts can purchase them, so you can't find any," the middle-aged Taoist said with a smile. Jiang Xi suddenly understood. No wonder. He had specifically searched for Tao pattern blood crystals in the Purple Heaven sect's treasury, but there was no such item. Only immortal Tao experts could purchase them. In that case, the price would definitely be more than 10,000 points. It was a classic case of buying low and selling high. However, Riverward could also understand that the Tao pattern blood crystal did not have much of an effect on these young disciples. The Purple Heaven sect definitely had immortal Tao experts who cultivated Tao pattern techniques. They needed more Tao pattern blood crystals. Even if it was 10,000 points each, he had 14,568 Tao pattern blood crystals. If he sold them, he would get close to 150 million points. That was definitely a huge sum of money. However, he had no intention of selling them at all. Such good things are most valuable in my own hands. After the middle-aged Taoist left, Jiang Xi re-entered the Purple Heaven sect's treasure vault and purchased the low-grade immortal artifact, Red Heaven Sword. It was the most expensive low-grade immortal longsword. Then, his points went back to less than 100,000, leaving him with 27,912 points. Jiang Xi didn't feel any heartache. Exchanging money for strength was the best deal. This time, the delivery was very fast. In just an hour, a Tao integration disciple arrived at Jiang Xi's house. "Senior brother Jiang Xi, this is what you bought from the treasure pavilion," the Tao integration stage disciple said enviously. He was only a Tao integration stage disciple in the first heaven, and he was not good at fighting. Otherwise, he would not have been working as a courier. Compared to Jiang Xi, he was extremely poor, even though he was at the Tao integration stage. How could he afford an immortal artifact? This was the difference between ordinary disciples and genius disciples. "Thank you." Jiang Xi smiled. Both ordinary people and immortals looked forward to the opening of the box after receiving the express delivery. After sending off the Tao integration stage courier, Jiang Xi couldn't wait to open the Supreme Grade Spirit Artifact sword case. There was a long sword with a red body in a frosty blade, exuding a faint immortal Tao aura. It was bound by blood. "Red Heaven Sword greets Master." A childish voice sounded in Jiang Xi's mind. "Artifact spirit?" Jiang Xi was a little surprised. When a Dharma treasure reached the immortal artifact level, there was a certain chance of producing an artifact spirit. He didn't expect this low-grade immortal artifact Red Heaven Sword to have an artifact spirit. "Come out and let me take a look." Jiang Xi was interested. "Yes, Master." A fiery red stream of light appeared on Red Heaven Sword, and a little girl in red with pigtails appeared in front of Jiang Xi. "Are you a newly born consciousness?" Jiang Xi asked. "Yes, Red Heaven Sword has the ability to grow. I only have one master in my life. The stronger my master is, the stronger Red Heaven Sword will be," Red Heaven Sword replied. Jiang Xi was very satisfied. It seemed that the 100,000 points were well spent. With the low-grade immortal artifact Red Heaven Sword, his actual combat strength had reached a new level. If he encountered another cultivator who was good at body tempering, it wouldn't be so difficult to kill them. I still have enough experience points now. I'll deduce Dao techniques while refining the golden palm. Because his sword Dao was on the verge of a breakthrough, Jiang Xi's next step was to deduce sword Dao. Of course, he didn't neglect the 3 Dao of heaven and earth, gale, leaving fire, and vajra. With the 5-colored palm as a reference, the efficiency of the deduction wouldn't be much slower. He cultivated in silence. 3 months later, Jiang Xi woke up from a short period of cultivation. He took out his communication bead in confusion, and a stranger sent him a message. He scanned with his spiritual consciousness and found that it was from the Purple Heaven sect. This was very rare. The Purple Heaven sect usually didn't take the initiative to send messages to their disciples. He checked the message. Purple Heaven Cloud Summit Competition. After reading it, Jiang Xi's eyes lit up. It turned out that the core disciples of the 4 heavens of the Purple Heaven sect would compete with each other every once in a while. Because the competition was held in a cloud summit starry sky in the towering mountain river diagram, it was called the Cloud Summit Competition. The competition in the Purple Heaven sect was very fierce. The disciples of the 4 heavens couldn't stay there forever after entering a heavenly realm. The Cloud Summit competition every once in a while was for the disciples to compete with each other. Only the strong were qualified to stay and even enter the higher heavens. The weak were eliminated to the lower heavens. The Purple Heaven sect didn't raise idle people. Some people might be talented when they first entered the Purple Heaven sect and received very high treatment. However, if they didn't work hard to cultivate, they would be eliminated layer by layer in such competition and eventually fall to the first heavens. Before entering the Purple Heaven sect, Jiang Xi and most of the geniuses realized one thing: this universe didn't lack geniuses the least. What they lacked was resources, so they had to establish an effective competition mechanism. Jiang Xi recalled the conversation he had with Granny Yan when he first came to the Purple Heaven sect. She had once introduced the situation of the first 4 heavens of the Purple Heaven sect to him. As for himself, he later learned more about it. The first 4 heavens of the Purple Heaven sect are the cultivation residences of the core disciples. The first heavens have the most disciples. There are countless nascent soul, essence soul, and Dao integration cultivators. The second heavens have much fewer disciples. There are 10,000 Dao integration cultivators, 1,000 essence soul cultivators, and 300 nascent soul cultivators. The third heavens have even fewer disciples. There are 1,000 Dao integration cultivators, 100 essence soul cultivators, and 30 nascent soul cultivators. The fourth heavens have the least disciples. There are 100 Dao integration cultivators, 10 essence soul cultivators, and 3 nascent soul cultivators. Jiang Xi understood that this was the configuration of the core disciples under normal circumstances. If there was a 9 regions genius battle, there would be more nascent soul cultivators in each heavens. For example, there were originally only 30 nascent soul cultivators in the third heavens. More than 80 years ago, after he, Mu Ning, and 7 other nascent soul cultivators joined, there were now 37 people. Chapter 4:16. In the next Cloud Summit competition, they would go through layers of competition. The extra people from the second heaven to the fourth heaven would eventually be eliminated to the first heaven. In other words, the first heaven was where the losers gathered. It was the worst level among the core disciples of the Purple Heaven sect. In addition, the Cloud Summit competition would be held at different intervals for the disciples of the Path Integration, Primordial Soul and Nascent Soul stages. The Cloud Summit competition for the Nascent Soul stage was held once every 100 years. The Cloud Summit competition for the Primordial Soul stage was held once every 1,000 years. The Cloud Summit competition for the Path Integration stage was held once every 3,000 years. I can't embarrass myself. Jiang Xi shook his head gently. According to the information sent by the Purple Heaven sect, the Cloud Summit competition for the Nascent Soul stage would begin in 5 years. And such a competition would not only compete with the newcomers of the same batch, but also with the older disciples of the previous batches. Since it was an older disciple, it must have a deep foundation. One could imagine how intense the competition would be. There is another problem. Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will be victorious in every battle. I am not clear about the situation of the older disciples, and it will be troublesome to collect information. Jiang Xi frowned. Let's ask Master. The Wine Sword Immortal was a 9 Tribulations Sword Immortal and had a high status in the Purple Heaven sect. It was easy for him to obtain information about the disciples. Then, he sent out a message. The Wine Sword Immortal's unrestrained image of a message quickly appeared in front of him. Disciple greets Master. Jiang Xi bowed respectfully. Oh, what cultivation problem do you have that you want to ask me for advice? The Wine Sword Immortal was obviously a little drunk, and his eyes were drifting. Jiang Xi smiled. He had been cultivating in the Do Pattern continent for so many years. Besides Jiang Dudu, the person he contacted the most was his master, the Wine Sword Immortal. Basically, he would ask the Wine Sword Immortal whenever he encountered a cultivation problem. This was also one of the reasons why his Green Lotus Sword Dao could improve so quickly. Master, I just received a message saying that the Cloud Summit competition is about to begin. So I want to ask for your help to collect information about the nascent soul stage disciples of the 3rd and 4th heaven, Jiang Xi explained. Cloud Summit competition. Wine Sword Immortal pinched his fingers to calculate and then said, it should be around this time, wait for me for a moment, I will ask someone. He spent most of his time cultivating in the ancient Tao origin world, so he didn't know much about the situation at the Violet Heaven sect's headquarters. Jiang Xi was not in a hurry. He stood to the side and waited. In just a short while, Wine Sword Immortal found out. He smiled and said, looks like your competition this time isn't small. Not small. Jiang Xi felt the pressure. Even a powerhouse like Master said that the competition was not small, then what level were these old disciples at? Let's just talk about the internal competition of the 3rd heavenly layer. The nascent soul stage of the 3rd heavenly layer originally had 30 senior disciples. Including you 7 rookies, there are a total of 37 people. Wine Sword Immortal drank a mouthful of wine. Then he continued, and these 30 old disciples have basically been nurtured by the Purple Clouds sect for hundreds of years, some for 1,000 or 2,000 years. The news that I inquired about just now, these people, there are 5 who already cleared the Heavenspan Mountain's 7th checkpoint. The rest all cleared the Heavenspan Mountain's 6th round. Jiang Xi held his breath. Fuck, how could he still fight? According to the rules of the Cloud Peak competition, the 37 nascent soul stage disciples of the 3rd heavenly layer would have to choose the strongest 4. Then they would have to compete with the nascent soul stage disciples of the 4th heavenly layer. Now that the 3rd heavenly layer disciples were so strong, the rookies could not see any hope. What's wrong? Feeling discouraged? Wine Sword Immortal smiled and asked. Jiang Xi took a deep breath and nodded. It's very normal. How many years have you all been cultivating in the Purple Cloud sect? Generally, disciples who can enter the 3rd heavenly layer through the 9 regions genius competition. After cultivating for hundreds or thousands of years, they can basically pass the 6th round. Wine Sword Immortal was calmer than Jiang Xi. With their talent, they should have already broken through to the primordial soul stage, right? Jiang Xi did not understand. Why do they have to break through? Wine Sword Immortal laughed and explained, you have to know that once they break through, they will compete with the primordial soul stage disciples. If they compete with the primordial spirit disciples, they will lose their advantage. Secondly, only nascent soul stage disciples can accept various cultivation missions and earn large amounts of points. Moreover, many nascent soul stage disciples hope to build a stronger foundation so that they can go further in the future. Therefore, very few people are willing to break through right away. Hearing this, Jiang Xi understood a little. He could also understand the actions of these senior disciples. If he had to choose, he would do the same. Regardless of the importance of building a foundation, the large amount of points from the cultivation missions was enough. Of course, the Purple Clouds sect was also worried that the disciples would maliciously accumulate points, therefore, there was a limit to the number of missions accepted. Nascent soul stage disciples could accept a maximum of 10 cultivation missions every 100 years. Moreover, the normal, difficult, dangerous, and hell levels difficulty levels also had limits to the number of missions. The higher the difficulty level of the mission, the fewer the number of missions one could accept. With your strength, staying in the third heavenly layer world for this cloud peak competition is definitely not difficult. The other rookies are in trouble, Wine Sword Immortal said. Jiang Xi nodded lightly. Apart from him, only Mu Ning had passed the 6th round of the Heavenspan Mountain some time ago. But those who had just passed were definitely not as good as those senior disciples with deep foundations. As for Mo Hong, Li Xianxian, and the rest, there was even less hope. The number of rounds in the Heavenspan Mountain largely reflected one's Dao technique strength. Naturally, the higher the round, the stronger one's strength. The biggest competition for you is the 5 senior disciples who passed the 7th round of the Heavenspan Mountain. However, this is your first time participating in the Cloud Peak competition, and there is basically no hope of entering the 4th heavenly layer. Therefore, I only have one request for you, and that is to enter the top 4 in the 3rd heavenly layer world, Wine Sword Immortal suddenly said seriously. Jiang Xi nodded slowly. When Wine Sword Immortal's phantom image disappeared, he was still deep in thought. Finally, his gaze became extremely determined. If I want to do it, I will do my best. Compared to Ji Wei and the rest in the previous 9 regions genius competition, my cultivation was too short. Even with the help of the experience points panel, my strength was still lacking compared to them in the end. But now, after more than 100 years of cultivation, my foundation has also become stronger. Then I will strive to enter the 4th heavenly layer this time. There are still more than 5 years before the Cloud Peak competition begins. I can still improve further. In terms of close combat strength, he had already reached a bottleneck. Unless all his Dao techniques entered the Great Dao level, then he could continue to improve his Dao pattern techniques. The only thing he could improve now was his Dao technique attacks. And among the 4 great Dao techniques, the one that had the most hope of improving was the Sword Dao. Therefore, Jiang Xi put all his focus on the Green Lotus Sword Dao. The Sword Dao was a Dao technique, a theory. And the Green Lotus Sword Dao was the application method, technique, and related to actual combat. The higher his mastery of the Green Lotus Sword Dao, the stronger his actual combat application of the Sword Dao would naturally be. Chapter 4:17. After the announcement of the Cloud Apex tournament, Jiang Xi wasn't the only one working hard. The other nascent soul disciples from the other worlds were also working hard. Even Mu Ning and Yan Jiufeng, who often came to meet Jiang Xi, were cultivating crazily. In order to quickly improve the Green Lotus Sword Dao, Jiang Xi also increased the frequency of asking the Wine Sword Immortal for advice while deducing his Sword Dao. Moreover, his affinity with the Dao was 12 times higher than before. His improvement was even faster now. Therefore, when Jiang Xi asked the Wine Sword Immortal a question, the Wine Sword Immortal didn't dare to believe Jiang Xi's improvement. Jiang Xi, are you sure you've comprehended the 119th transformation of the Green Lotus? He knew that when Jiang Xi left the Dou Pattern continent, he received guidance from True Monarch 6 Virtuous and comprehended the 118th transformation of the Green Lotus. However, only 3 months had passed since then. When Jiang Xi displayed the 4th transformation of the Green Lotus, the Wine Sword Immortal shook his head repeatedly. This speed of improvement really scared him. Others' cultivation speed was getting slower and slower, but Jiang Xi's speed was getting faster and faster. According to the normal development path of the Purple Heaven Sect's core disciples, their cultivation speed should be the fastest in the ancient Tao source world. However, Jiang Xi broke this phenomenon. First of all, his cultivation speed in the Dou pattern continent was faster than 30 years in the ancient Tao source world. Then, Jiang Xi's cultivation speed was actually faster than in the Dou pattern continent. The Wine Sword Immortal didn't understand. No one knew the reason except for Jiang Xi himself. It was because he used all his resources and energy on his sword Dao cultivation. In the past, he walked 4 Dao paths at the same time. Now, he focused on the sword Dao path. Therefore, his cultivation speed was faster. Time passed. In the blink of an eye, Jiang Xi had returned from the Dou pattern continent for half a year. Sky Span Mountain River Diagram, the starry sky continent where the 44 Sky Span Mountains were located. Jiang Xi's figure appeared out of thin air. He first bowed to the black-robed Lord Mountain Guardian. Greetings, Lord Mountain Guardian. Jiang Xi. I remember you haven't been here for almost 80 years. The Lord Mountain Guardian was very surprised. 78 years. Oh. Are you confident of passing the 7th stage this time? Give it a try. Ha, that means you're confident. The Lord Mountain Guardian laughed. Then, he said, go on, there's no one on the Green Lotus Heavenly Mountain right now. Jiang Xi nodded and flew away. Seeing Jiang Xi's figure, the mountain keeper's interest was piqued. Based on this kid's style, he wouldn't have come here if he wasn't confident. If he could really pass the 7th level, he would surpass Xi Wei. Coincidentally, it's also the Cloud Top competition. There's going to be a good show to watch. The 7th pass of the Green Lotus Heavenly Mountain, Illusory Space. When the black-armored gatekeeper saw Jiang Xi, he frowned slightly. You're here to challenge my 7th level again. You don't have any sword intent on you. It seems like you haven't made a breakthrough in your Dao. I advise you to come back after you've made a breakthrough. I wonder if this counts as a breakthrough. Jiang Xi smiled faintly. The Dao runes of the Vajra Dao circulated. The gatekeeper was clearly surprised. He remembered that Jiang Xi had originally walked on 3 paths of Dao. Now, he was on the 4th path. In addition to the path of body refinement, he now had 5 paths. This kid was really taking a different path. The other young people were all advancing along the path of Dao, but Jiang Xi was constantly opening up new paths. It seems like you're very confident. Then let me see how much your strength has increased, the gatekeeper said seriously. He suddenly drew his sword, and sword intent filled the entire space. At the 7th level, the gatekeeper could unleash a Dao slightly higher than an ordinary 7th level Great Dao cultivator. Jiang Xi wasn't afraid of him. Sword light scattered, and a green lotus appeared. At the same time, he used the Dao fusion technique. With the Dao of the sword as the core, Gale, Leaf Fire, and Vajra were like lotus leaves, clustered around the sword Dao green lotus. In the next moment, sword Qi rampaged. The power of each sword Qi was no weaker than the gatekeeper's sword intent attack. The fusion of 4 paths. The gatekeeper was shocked to be able to walk on 4 paths of Dao at the same time was already very illogical. It was very abnormal. To be able to achieve the fusion of 4 paths of Dao. Freak. The gatekeeper commented in his heart, but he didn't show any mercy. Accompanied by sword intent, he turned into a sword light and attacked Jiang Xi directly. Close combat. Jiang Xi smiled. He didn't plan to engage in close combat this time. He only wanted to test the strength of his Dao. The result of the fusion of the 4 Daos was a basic spiritual energy amplitude 4. His basic spiritual power amplitude was 2,000 times. Now, it had become 8,000 times. It greatly exceeded the gatekeepers by 7,300 times. Green Lotus. He attacked with all his strength. Suddenly, 120 green lotuses appeared. The space trembled, and the sword light became even more dazzling. Swoosh! Swoosh! What? The gatekeeper was shocked. 120 green lotuses meant that there were 120 transformations. This meant that Jiang Xi had already begun to comprehend the fourth evolution of the Green Lotus Sword Dao. In terms of actual combat application of Sword Dao, Jiang Xi also had the strength to pass the 7th level. Bam! Countless sword chi, after destroying the gatekeeper's sword intent, landed on the gatekeeper's body. The gatekeeper was dead. The 7th level passed. Jiang Xi directly left the illusory space and flew toward the 8th level of the Green Lotus towering mountain with a calm expression. He could be calm, but it didn't mean that others could be so. On the platform in front of the 44 towering mountains, the gatekeeper was shocked. Fusion of 4 paths. This young man is walking so many paths at the same time. Isn't he afraid that the difficulty will increase when he becomes an immortal? When he saw that Jiang Xi had successfully passed the level, he reacted again. In the 7th level, he hasn't shown the close combat strength of the path of body refinement. I don't know if he can pass the 8th level. The gatekeeper couldn't help but look forward to it. For countless years, it was rare to see such an interesting young man. Green Lotus towering mountain, the 8th level of the illusory space. To be able to pass the 8th level at the nascent soul stage, your talent is very strong. At present, among the nascent soul stage core disciples of the Purple Heaven sect, only one person has passed the 8th level. However, you can't pass the 8th level with just your Dao strength. The gatekeeper said with a straight face. Of course, he could think of what the gatekeeper could think of. Let's give it a try first. Jiang Xi's expression was serious. The difficulty of the towering mountain increased by a level every 3 levels. However, the overall difficulty increased with each level. The increase in difficulty from the 7th level to the 8th level was still very abnormal. Close combat. His physical strength was comparable to 10 times that of a supreme-grade spirit weapon, which gave him great strength and speed. His figure directly cut through the space and charged straight at the gatekeeper with a wisp of sword light. However, the gatekeeper's action was very simple. He drew his sword. The sword intent permeated the space, turning into countless sword shadows, and then came in front of Jiang Xi. Clang! Clang! After the sword intent attack landed on Jiang Xi, there was a huge vibration. What a powerful attack! Riverward discovered that cracks were beginning to appear on his body. Moreover, these attacks slowed down his speed, making it difficult for him to use his close combat strength. Swoosh! Before Jiang Xi could react, Jiang Xi was stunned. He saw a cold light directly pass through his throat. The 8th level failed. However, Jiang Xi didn't feel any disappointment. Instead, he smiled. He was first. Among the new disciples, he was the first to pass the 7th level of the towering mountain. Chapter 4:18. Although he failed the 8th stage, he still surpassed that talented Ji Wei. Interesting, interesting, the Lord Guardian shook his head. Ji Wei's talent had been proven in the 9 regions genius battle and was favored by the upper echelons of the Purple Heaven sect. Jiang Xi could only be considered outstanding at that time. Compared to Ji Wei, he was still far from being noticed by the upper echelons. Because in the long river of time, there were too many outstanding geniuses like Jiang Xi. If one did not become an immortal, they were not worth paying attention to. But later, Jiang Xi's performance became more and more heaven-defying, becoming stronger step by step. Now, he had surpassed Ji Wei. People like him who were getting stronger and stronger were more worth looking forward to. The Lord Guardian quickly spread the news that Jiang Xi had passed the 7th stage of the Sky Ascension Mountain. This was especially true for nascent soul disciples who were at the 3rd and 4th heavenly layers. Purple Heaven Sect's fourth-level world, a strange planet filled with spirit energy that was like a world of ice and snow. This was the cave abode of the fourth-level disciple, Kuang Lang. Why? Why? Kuang Lang stood in the snow, somewhat deranged. He could not understand. 100 years ago, the two of them were about the same. In the 9 regions genius battle, he even defeated Jiang Xi. However, Riverward quickly left him in the dust, unable to catch up even if he wanted to. Now, Jiang Xi was already at the 7th stage. He had only passed the 5th stage of the Sky Ascension Mountain. I want to be famous in the universe. I want to stand at the peak of the universe. Calm down, calm down. I can't fight for victory or defeat. I can't be affected by him. Kuang Lang's aura gradually calmed down. Those who could enter the 4th level were definitely not fools. Although he was arrogant, he also knew how to endure and keep a low profile. He knew the importance of mental state. Another purple planet in the 4th level. This was Ji Wei's cave abode. A cold young man with a strand of white hair on his forehead was usually very calm, but today, he had a blank expression on his face. He was a determined person. The hatred in his heart and his childhood experience made him extremely thirsty for power, and he fought to be first step by step. Therefore, from the moment he stepped on the path of cultivation, no matter where he was, he had always been first. Now, he had been surpassed. He was no longer first. Who? A cold-faced young man appeared out of thin air on this purple planet and came in front of Ji Wei. This was a Tao immortal perfected lord, Ji Wei's master. Why haven't you woken up yet? The cold-looking young man shouted. Master. Ji Wei stared blankly for a moment before bowing respectfully. Greetings, master. How does it feel to be surpassed? The cold youth asked. Ji Wei was silent. Are you still holding on? The cold youth asked again. Ji Wei's gaze became resolute again. He shook his head and said, I've decided to focus on the Tao of space. Once the path is clear, I'll focus on the Tao of time. That's right. A smile appeared on the grim youth's face. Your talent in the area of space is not much different from those geniuses that appear once every 10 million years. If you focus on the Tao of space, your chances of becoming a grand Tao immortal will be very high. Therefore, you should be glad that you have Jiang Xi as your opponent. His rise has awakened you and allowed you to correct your mistake in time. Ji Wei's eyes flickered. Jiang Xi. Indeed, he had to thank Jiang Xi. If he hadn't woken up and continued to cultivate time and space at the same time, the speed at which his strength increased would have been slower and slower. By the time he underwent tribulation and became an immortal, perhaps Jiang Xi would have already become a grand Tao immortal. I won't admit defeat. Other than Ji Wei, Kuang Lang, and Yan Jiufeng, there were 3 other senior disciples at the nascent soul stage of the 4th heaven. Their strength and foundation were not something that the new disciples could compare to. Therefore, when they heard that Jiang Xi had passed the 7th stage of the sky-piercing mountain, they didn't have much of a reaction. In comparison, the 30 nascent soul stage senior disciples at the 3rd heaven were shocked. A newcomer who had only been in the Purple Heaven sect for 100 years had passed the 7th stage of the sky-piercing mountain. How long had these senior disciples been in the Purple Heaven sect? Some were a few hundred years, while others were a few thousand years. But now, only 5 of them had passed the 7th stage. A strong opponent. Originally, many people didn't treat these new disciples as opponents, but now, everyone took them seriously. At the 5th heaven, in an immortal's abode surrounded by clouds. Immortal Wu Ye's eyes were cold. A bone-chilling killing intent filled the entire abode world. With this kind of talent, if I let it develop, I really won't have any chance. The Purple Heaven Sword Manual, the hope of becoming a Tao Lord, I must get it. I must. At the 3rd heaven, Lil Pi continent, Jiang Xi's abode. Mu Ning and Yan Jiufeng's reactions were different from the others. After hearing the news, they immediately came to find him. The top 10 of this year's 9 Regions Genius Tournament, the two of them and Jiang Xi belonged to a small group. Mo Hong, Feng Lu, Li Xianxian, and Lin Ling were also a small group. For example, Ji Wei, Kuang Lang, and Blood Child were all solo cultivators. Therefore, Mu Ning and Yan Jiufeng didn't treat Jiang Xi as an outsider. Jiang Xi, leave a way out for others. Mu Ning shouted. He never hit anything. That's right, the 7th stage. I'm afraid I'll have to cultivate for another 100 or 200 years before I have any hope of passing this stage. Yan Jiufeng had the intention of following her husband. No choice, we're all geniuses. Shameless. Shameless. Jiang Xi only chuckled and didn't say anything. The three of them chatted for a while before Yan Jiufeng suddenly sighed, I'm in trouble this time. When the cloud competition arrives, my 4th heaven disciple status will become a 3rd heaven disciple. That's good, you can accompany me. Mu Ning immediately followed. Scram. It seemed like her depression was fake. Her temper was still fiery. Right now, everyone is working hard to cultivate. I'm going to cultivate too. This time, I have to at least stay in the 3rd heaven. I don't want to be eliminated to the 2nd heaven. That would be embarrassing. Yan Jiufeng said again. I'm leaving too. Mu Ning also ended the transmission. The spirit spring beside Dao De Palace quieted down again. Jiang Xi lightly shook his head. It wouldn't be easy for these two to stay in the 3rd heaven. 4th heaven. I can't relax either. If I want to enter the 4th heaven, I have to deal with the 3rd heaven opponents first. Through the information provided by his master, the Wine Sword Immortal, he had a deeper understanding of his opponents. Among the 3rd heaven nascent soul stage disciples, the 5 senior disciples who had passed the 7th stage were Gu Xing, Bei Dongping, Ming Chen, Wu Heng, and Bai Ying. These 5 people all had rich battle experience. Especially Gu Xing, who cultivated the Saber Dao and had strong battle strength. The other 4 had their own methods and were hard to deal with. Compared to them, what I lack is battle experience. So it's better to combine theory and practice. In order to improve my sword Dao, I still need a lot of battles. This was something that he had planned. After passing the 7th stage of the sky-piercing mountain, he would start to take on cultivation missions. Nascent soul stage disciples could take on 10 cultivation missions every 100 years. He had only taken on 1 mission in the battle pattern continent. He couldn't waste such an opportunity. Not only could he increase his strength, but he could also gain a lot of points. Points were wealth. Chapter 419. Dangerous Mission, Clear Moon Mystic Realm Mission Location, Purple Heaven Sect's 3rd Heaven Mission Objective, Obtain 3 Clear Moon Stones Mission Reward, 30,000 points. Jiang Xi had a rough idea of the situation after hiding in the Clear Moon Mystic Realm for 10 days. There were countless miracles in the universe. For example, this strange place had given birth to a special human-like life form, the Clear Moon race. The common characteristic of this race was their slightly translucent blue skin. When they reached adulthood, short wings would grow from their shoulders, and many mysterious patterns would appear on their faces. The Clear Moon race is born at the Golden Core stage and can reach the nascent soul stage when they reach adulthood. Those with strong talents can even reach the primordial soul stage when they reach adulthood. However, the universe is fair. It is extremely difficult for this kind of race with heaven-defying talents to reproduce. There are less than 10 billion individuals in the entire race. Jiang Xi hid at the bottom of a bottomless lake and observed a group of Clear Moon race cultivators cultivating on the lake's surface. The 2 Clear Moon race cultivators in the lead exuded an aura that even Jiang Xi was wary of. One of them was at the late-stage Dao integration stage, while the other was at the early-stage Dao integration stage. The rest were at the primordial soul stage. This is the season for the clear moon race to lay their eggs. Once I succeed, I will escape immediately. After a period of hiding and investigating, Jiang Xi discovered that the clear moon stone his mission target was looking for was actually an egg laid by a Dao integration cultivator from the clear moon race. I wonder what the clear moon stone is used for. He did not find any information about the item in the Purple Heaven Sect's treasure vault. It seemed like it was a cultivation resource that an immortal Dao cultivator needed. He waited for about 10 hours. Suddenly, the aura of one of the clear moon race cultivators started to rise steadily. Early stage Dao integration, mid-stage Dao integration, late-stage Dao integration. His aura suddenly fell to the early stage primordial soul stage. Then, a blue crystal fell from the Dao integration stage pure moon tribe member's forehead. It exuded a mysterious aura. Clear moon stone. Now is the time. Jiang Xi's figure flashed at the bottom of the lake. After using the Dao pattern to refine his body, his speed was comparable to a late-stage Dao integration cultivator. Before that late-stage Dao integration cultivator could react, he grabbed the clear moon stone and left. Cultivator! Damn it! Kill him! Angry voices, accompanied by strange roars, resounded through the sky. Run! Jiang Xi didn't want to continue fighting either. Instead, he used his powerful physique to withstand the attack of the Pure Moon Tribe cultivator and disappeared. He left behind a group of angry Pure Moon clan beings. At the same time, they were also shocked because Jiang Xi's body was too strong. It was rare to see such an experienced person. In the end, Jiang Xi spent 2 months and completed the Clear Moon Mystic Realm mission. In fact, according to his plan, 1 month was enough. Later on, the Pure Moon clan had become more vigilant, making it difficult for him to make a move. When he obtained the 3rd Clear Moon Stone, more than 10 Dao integration cultivators from the Pure Moon tribe were waiting for him. If his body wasn't strong enough, he probably wouldn't have survived. After completing the mission, he received 30,000 points. Then, he accepted the next dangerous mission, Vero Planet Cultivation Mission. This time, it only took him a month to complete it, and he obtained 10,000 points in the end. After that, Jiang Xi turned into a quest maniac. One cultivation mission after another, all of which were dangerous. In such a mission, he had indeed improved. The various combat environments, different races, and different opponents made his combat experience much richer. In the blink of an eye, half a year had passed. Jiang Xi had already completed 6 dangerous missions. When the news of him accepting dangerous missions and succeeding in every one of them spread, even many senior disciples were shocked. Many people had the same thought, is this guy crazy? According to the rules set by the Purple Heaven Sect, only core disciples at the nascent soul stage were qualified to accept all kinds of cultivation missions. Core disciples at the Essence Soul stage were sent out to various places to train core disciples at the Dao integration stage had to undergo the final life or death experience. Therefore, if nascent soul stage disciples wanted to earn a lot of points, they could only do so through cultivation missions. However, very few people were as crazy as Jiang Xi and did all the dangerous missions. The mortality rate of the dangerous missions was 50%. On this day, after Jiang Xi completed his mission and was about to accept the next one, the Wine Sword Immortal took the initiative to look for him. The Wine Sword Immortal, who had always been unrestrained, looked extremely serious this time. You are reckless. With your strength, doing a dangerous mission is very challenging. You don't have to worry too much about your life, so I won't say anything. But this time, if you want to do a hell rank mission, you are too reckless. He was very concerned about Jiang Xi. Not only because Jiang Xi's sword Dao was very similar to the sword Dao of his late Dao partner, Lian Rong. Also, after the two became master and disciple, this relationship was destined to last for thousands of years, tens of thousands of years, or even endless years. With such a relationship, the two of them could be said to be truly close. Master, How did you know I want to take a hell mission? Jiang Ci was a little surprised. In the three-dimensional phantom in front of him, a list of hell missions was displayed, and he hadn't decided which one to choose. How did the Wine Sword Immortal know? You have only been in the Purple Heavens sect for 100 years, and you want to take a hell mission. Naturally, it alarmed some of the higher-ups, so they sent me a message. The Wine Sword Immortal explained. Then he frowned and said, do you know what a hell mission represents? It's a narrow escape, but I have confidence. Jiang Ci was very calm, and his tone was also very firm. Very good, the strong should have this kind of firm belief. The Wine Sword Immortal chuckled, very satisfied with Jiang Ci's attitude. However, no matter what you do, I only hope one thing, and that is you must come back alive. Master, don't worry. Jiang Ci nodded vigorously. After ending the message, he first pondered for a long time. The Wine Sword Immortal's words just now, to him, were a reminder with a caring nature. After thinking for a long time, he still couldn't decide what was wrong with his decision this time. The strong wouldn't easily change their decisions. Even if it was wrong, they had to know where they were wrong and then correct it. But before knowing the mistake, this belief couldn't be shaken. Otherwise, there wouldn't even be a chance to correct the mistake. Therefore, Jiang Ci still had to go for a hell mission. It was still the same saying, time and tide wait for no one. 10 years ago, which was the 299th year of the new moon era, Earth experienced another large-scale spirit chi revival. This was also the fifth spirit chi revival, and the concentration of Earth's spirit chi was already equivalent to a level 6 life planet. In the entire Tao Alliance 9 great starfields, there weren't many level 6 life planets. From Jiang Ci's point of view, every time Earth's spirit chi revival, it was like a layer of seal was being unlocked. When the day came when the seal was completely unlocked, Earth would be exposed to the entire universe. He didn't know when this day would come. It could be the next moment, or it could be tomorrow, or it could be 10,000 years. No matter when, I have to become stronger. Only when I am strong enough can I be fearless. Chapter 420. What did he rely on to become stronger? Of course, it was the experience panel. In just 200 years, he had grown from an ordinary person to a powerhouse comparable to the Tao integration stage. Was it fast? Very fast. But Jiang Ci felt that this was not enough. It was still too slow. He needed to improve faster. Now, only by entering the fourth heaven could he get a better cultivation environment and resources. If he missed this opportunity, he could only wait another 100 years. The difference between the third heavenly layer and the fourth heavenly layer was simply the cultivation environment. A third heaven disciple's cave abode was a small starry sky continent. A fourth heaven disciple's cave abode was a planet with rich spirit chi. It was said that the spirit chi could reach the point of forming a river. But here, he only had a small spirit spring. In addition, after becoming a fourth heaven disciple, he was qualified to have a guardian. A guardian of the tribulation transcendent realm. In addition to these, there was also a gap in resources. For example, the most common one was the limit of taking cultivation missions. According to the division of the heaven, a fourth heaven nascent soul disciple could take up to 3 hell-level missions. A third heaven disciple could take up to 2, a second heaven disciple could only take up 1, and a first heaven disciple was not qualified to take a hell-level mission. Obviously, with the strength of a first-layer Yuanying stage disciple, to do a hell-level mission was simply to throw away his life. The limit of the number of missions reflected the gap in resource allocation. Because the more difficult the mission, the more generous the reward. For an ordinary mission, the reward was usually a few hundred points. For a difficult mission, the reward was usually a few thousand points. For a dangerous mission, the lowest reward was 10,000 points and the highest was 100,000 points. For a hell-level mission, the lowest reward was 100,000 points and the highest reward was hundreds of thousands or millions. And for a Purple Heaven sect disciple, points were wealth. They could be used to buy various cultivation resources in the treasure pavilion. 1 point was equal to 100 supreme-grade spirit crystals. It was worth mentioning that many cultivation methods and magic treasures in the treasure pavilion of the Purple Heaven sect required the right to purchase. For example, the Red Heaven Sword, a low-grade immortal artifact, could only be bought by disciples above the third heaven. And he bought it with 100,000 points, which was equivalent to only spending 10 million supreme-grade spirit crystals. Outside, a nascent soul cultivator wanted to buy an immortal artifact. It was simply a fool's dream. Even if he had 100 million supreme-grade spirit crystals, he might not be able to buy it. It was priceless. And this was only the treatment of a third heavenly layer disciple. A fourth heavenly layer disciple could obviously buy better things. I must enter the fourth layer of heaven this time. If you want to become stronger, you need more pressure. Hell rank missions are indeed very dangerous. There is a 90% chance of death. But that's only for normal core disciples. Jiang Xi's eyes were filled with confidence. No one knew his true strength. Even the Wine Sword Immortal only knew that his Dao technique strength was barely comparable to an early-stage Dao integration cultivator. But in terms of close combat, no one knew. When he returned from the battle pattern continent the last time, although that immortal knew that he had become a three-striped battle spirit, he didn't know exactly how strong he was. This was because it was extremely rare to use 4 Dao arts to refine one's body. The entire battlesuit continent had been passed down for countless years, but only the fallen 5 elements battlesuit, Dao Lord, had been able to refine his body using 5 Daos. However, I still have to be careful. I'm only looking for pressure, not death. Jiang Xi continued to browse the mission information in the 3D illusion in front of him. The Yellow Springs ancient land is located in the Ksitigarbha world of Buddhism, the Sword Tomb is located in the Sealed Sword world of the Sword's Gate, the Myriad Mountain Starry Sea is located in the Third Heaven of the Purple Heaven sect, the Devilish Prison is located in the Nine Abyss secret realm of the Hunyuan sect. There were a total of 21 Hell rank missions, and several of them interested Jiang Xi. For example, the Yellow Spring ancient land. There was a yellow spring in the underworld. Could this yellow spring be related to the Fengdu secret realm on Earth? There was also the Sword Tomb ruins. He cultivated the Sword Dao, so he should be able to gain something there. Which one should he choose? Jiang Xi pondered for a while and finally chose the Myriad Mountains Starry Sea mission. Because it was close, he wouldn't waste time. The 2 missions were in the Buddhist sect and the Sword sect star field respectively. It would be inconvenient if he went there. In less than 5 years, the Cloud Top competition would begin. He didn't have much time to waste. After making his decision, he chose to accept the mission. Jiang Xi, are you sure you want to choose the Myriad Mountains Starry Sea mission, Hell rank? Please consider carefully. A message popped up in the 3D illusion. Yes. Jiang Xi chose yes 3 times in a row. Mission accepted successfully. The cultivation center indicated that he would depart in 3 days. Hell rank mission, Myriad Mountains Starry Sea mission location, Third Heaven of the Purple Heaven sect mission details, 1. Survive in the Myriad Mountains Starry Sea for half a year and obtain 100,000 points. 2. Survive in the Myriad Mountains Starry Sea for 5 years and obtain 500,000 points. This was a survival mission. It seemed simple, but when Jiang Xi finished reading the detailed introduction of the mission, he knew that this mission was not simple. After all, the reward was too high. Just surviving for half a year and he would obtain 100,000 points and an immortal artifact. For the next 3 days, Jiang Xi accompanied Jiang Dudu. The 2 of them were going to say goodbye again. 10 years ago, the 5th spirit chi recovery on Earth caused a huge change in the environment of Earth. Some people and things began to stir. Someone had to return to Earth to take charge of the overall situation. Now, he, Xian Tian, and Li Baibai were all cultivating in their respective sections. Before they succeeded in their cultivation, they couldn't leave. This heavy responsibility fell on Jiang Dudu. This was because Jiang Daodu had entered the Purple Heaven sect through the introduction of special talents. Disciples who belonged to the business type did not need to abide by the rules of cultivation and could leave at any time. Some time ago, Jiang Dudu had already applied to return to the Blue Star to actually run the Mountain Sea Star trade. This application had been approved by the Purple Heaven sect. I'm leaving. You must take care of yourself. Jiang Dudu stared into Jiang Xi's eyes. Don't worry. As long as I don't meet an immortal expert, I'm confident. You, on the other hand, when you go back, teach those people a lesson. Jiang Xi said with a smile. Humph, just a lesson. Brother, you're still too soft-hearted. Jiang Dudu said with a murderous look. Ha, do as you see fit. Those people can't come out anyway. Jiang Xi shook his head and smiled. Then, Jiang Dudu left the Third Heaven sect through the teleportation array on the Lil Pi continent. The teleportation array on this continent could only be used within the territory of the Purple Heaven sect. If one wanted to leave the Purple Heaven sect, they had to go through the Purple Heaven sect's large Starry Sky teleportation platform. Jiang Xi watched Jiang Dudu leave. Although he was reluctant to part with her, he wasn't too worried. Because with Jiang Dudu's strength, she could easily suppress the current changes on Earth. 10 years ago, when Earth's spirit qi recovered for the 5th time, Jiang Dudu also went through a deep sleep and her cultivation had risen to the nascent soul late stage. Jiang Xi was no longer surprised by this phenomenon. Like him, Jiang Dudu was hiding a big secret. However, these secrets were not something that he could find out with his current strength. Chapter 421. After Jiang Daodu left, a young man wearing a Taoist robe came to Jiang Xi's cave residence. His body exuded the pressure of an immortal powerhouse. He was a tribulation transcender. According to the rules of the Purple Heaven sect, dangerous and hell-level cultivation missions could only be carried out by disciples of the Nascent Soul sect. Nascent Soul stage disciples were not allowed to go to the mission destination on their own. They had to be sent there by someone designated by the sect. The Tao integration stage disciples were the ones who delivered the dangerous missions to the mission locations. Hell-level missions were escorted by tribulation transcender powerhouses. This was because the teleportation coordinates of these mission locations were all top secret. Nascent Soul stage disciples were not qualified to know. Of course, when the mission was over and they knew the coordinates of their cave residence, there was no need for others to pick them up. Jiang Xi was also aware of this, so he had already mentally prepared himself. He respectfully bowed to the young man in the Taoist robe. Jiang Xi greets Uncle Master. The young man in the Taoist robe smiled. This time, I will escort you to the myriad mountain star sea. Jiang Xi quickly thanked him. Thank you, Uncle Master. The young man in the Taoist robe shook his head. You don't have to be so polite. These are the orders of the sect. If a Third Heaven disciple wants to go to the myriad mountain star sea to gain experience, I will personally send them there. That's what I should do. I'll have to trouble Uncle Master to make a trip. Jiang Xi was not an arrogant person. He would not be arrogant just because he was talented. The person in front of him was an immortal. The young man in the Taoist robe smiled gently. Jiang Xi's polite and respectful attitude made him feel very comfortable. Although he was an immortal powerhouse, he was only an ordinary tribulation transcender. In terms of status in the Purple Heaven sect, Jiang Xi was actually about the same as him. In a sense, Jiang Xi's status was even higher than his. This was because Jiang Xi was valued by many higher-ups of the Purple Heaven sect. Those who could be called higher-ups were naturally powerhouses at the Tao Immortal True Monarch level. For example, True Monarch 6 Virtuous and True Monarch Iron Mountain. In particular, True Monarch 6 Virtuous was in existence second only to Tao monarchs in the Purple Heaven sect. The matter of Jiang Ci receiving guidance from True Monarch 6 Virtuous had already spread among the immortal powerhouses of the Purple Heaven sect. Furthermore, some time ago, Jiang Ci cleared the Heavenspan Mountain's 7th stage, displaying powerful talent. This caused a stir in the Purple Heaven sect. Then, the young man in the Taoist robe made a gesture with both hands and formed a set of teleportation coordinates that Jiang Ci could not understand at all. The teleportation array activated and the two of them disappeared from the teleportation array of the Lil Pi continent. The Myriad Mountain's starry sea was located in the depths of the third heaven of the Purple Heaven sect. It had existed for a very long time. It was said that the Almighty of the Purple Heaven sect had used this as a foundation to establish the third heaven world. At this moment, in the starry sky, on a huge teleportation platform, two figures emerged from the teleportation light. They were Jiang Ci and the Taoist-robed youth. This is the Myriad Mountain's star sea. The Taoist-robed young man smiled. Jiang Ci looked at the space wonder in astonishment. In the starry sky in front of the teleportation platform, countless starry sky mountains formed a strange and mysterious universe secret realm. Every mountain in the starry sky was thousands or even tens of thousands of times larger than a star. The periphery of these starry sky mountains was densely covered with nebulas and many stars in the universe were circling around. Those stars in the universe that were many times larger than Earth seemed very small compared to the starry sky mountains. According to the mission information, there are many indigenous cultivators living on these stars. Unlike the Dou pattern continent, the indigenous races of the Myriad Mountain Star Sea have already submitted to the Purple Heaven sect. Many powerful indigenous cultivators will choose to enter the Myriad Mountain Star Sea to gain experience. As long as they survive in the Myriad Mountain Star Sea for a month, they will be qualified to join the Purple Heaven sect and become an inner disciple. This information appeared in Jiang Ci's mind. In the starry sky at the edge of the Myriad Mountain Star Sea, there were many huge palaces floating. Each palace was overseen by an immortal Tao powerhouse. Among them, one of the palaces was obviously larger, with a diameter of more than 100,000 kilometers. One of the 4 entrances to the Myriad Mountain Star Sea was located here at this time. Thousands of indigenous cultivators in strange clothes were gathered on the first floor of this palace. These natives looked similar to humans, but there were some differences in the details. They were all waiting to enter the Myriad Mountain Star Sea to gain experience. On the other side of the palace, there was a transparent barrier wall. Only when the barrier was opened could one enter the Myriad Mountain Star Sea. In front of the barrier wall stood a team of Tao integration stage black-robed men. "Sir, when can we enter?" a young and energetic indigenous cultivator asked loudly. "Only those who have reached 10,000 can enter," the leader of the black-robed men answered expressionlessly. Many indigenous cultivators began to discuss in low voices. The Purple Heaven sect is really domineering. The Myriad Mountain Star Sea is our ancestral land. There's nothing we can do about it. Who asked them to be so powerful? I heard that even in the vast universe, the Purple Heaven sect is one of the top forces. Let's try to survive for a month in this survival training. By then, we can apply to become an inner disciple of the Purple Heaven sect and not be trapped in the Myriad Mountain Star Sea. You make it sound easy. The death rate of this survival training is too high. With my primordial soul stage strength, I can't guarantee that I can survive for 10 days. Life is the most important thing. If we encounter danger, we should quickly retreat. The indigenous cultivators discussed animatedly. Of course, the black-robed men guarding the barrier wall could hear these discussions, but no one paid any attention to them. There had been too many such complaints over the countless years. One was slapping the other. Although the Purple Heaven sect was domineering to the indigenous cultivators of the Myriad Mountain Star Sea, they had also given them a chance. There were billions of people in the universe, and it was very difficult to become an official disciple of the Purple Heaven sect. As for the indigenous cultivators, they only needed to complete the survival training to be able to enter the Purple Heaven sect. When Jiang Xi and the young man in the Taoist robe arrived at the main hall, the black-robed Dao integration cultivators immediately flew up to greet them. Jiang Xi only glanced at the indigenous cultivators curiously. Then, together with the young man in the Taoist robe, he followed the leader of the black-robed men and went straight to the second floor of the palace. This scene attracted the attention of all the indigenous cultivators. Who is that black-haired young man? He's only at the nascent soul stage. How can a Dao integration cultivator personally welcome him? No, he's an immortal. The one wearing the Taoist robe beside him is an immortal. Hiss, I guess he should be a core disciple of the third or fourth heaven of the Purple Heaven sect. He's the noblest existence among the nascent soul stage disciples. His status is comparable to that of an immortal. A Dao integration cultivator took a deep breath and said. The indigenous cultivators became even more shocked. An immortal was a powerhouse who stood at the peak of the entire myriad mountain star sea. However, this immortal was like the black-haired young man's guard. A moment later, a black-robed man flew down from the second floor of the palace. He said to the thousands of indigenous cultivators, "You're in luck. Senior brother Jiang Xi has come to the myriad mountain star sea to train. Therefore, there's no need to wait for the number of people to reach 10,000. You can enter the myriad mountain star sea in advance now." The indigenous cultivators immediately became happy and even more shocked at the same time. A Dao integration cultivator calling a nascent soul cultivator senior brother? That black-haired young man was indeed the core disciple of the Purple Heaven sect. Chapter 422. The black-robed man spoke again. Now, line up and receive your identity badges. Remember, everyone will receive a silver badge. And that noble core disciple just now was carrying a gold badge. According to the rules, if you can kill a core disciple, you will receive a gold badge. If you obtain a gold badge, you can directly become a core disciple of the first heaven of the Purple Heaven sect. In front of the huge barrier wall, thousands of natives immediately became excited. At this time, everyone's complaints and dissatisfaction were swept away, and they were full of fighting spirit. If they wanted to join the Purple Heaven sect, there were two ways: survive in the Myriad Mountain Star Sea for a month, or kill the core disciples who were training in the Myriad Mountain Star Sea. This was a rule that had been passed down for countless years, but it was very rare to encounter core disciples who came here to train. Now they had encountered it. This was their chance. These natives who could come here to train were not weak, and the weakest was at the nascent soul stage. There were many people at the essence soul stage and Dao integration stage. It was too easy to kill a core disciple at the nascent soul stage. In contrast, surviving in the Myriad Mountain Star Sea for a month was obviously more difficult. Therefore, many of them excitedly received their identity badges, passed through the barrier, and entered the Myriad Mountain Star Sea. On the second floor of the palace, the Dao integration stage leader of the black-robed men was unusually respectful to Jiang Xi. 3 days ago, I heard that senior brother Jiang Xi would come to the Myriad Mountain Star Sea, but I didn't expect you to come so soon, the leader of the black-robed men said with a smile. Jiang Xi smiled. It seemed that everything was different after he passed the 7th level of the Tongtian mountain. Under normal circumstances, when a third heaven nascent soul stage disciple came to the Myriad Mountain Star Sea for a mission, only one Dao integration stage black-robed man would welcome him. Now, after he came, all the black-robed men came to welcome him. This was already the treatment of a fourth heaven nascent soul stage disciple, and it was the highest standard. This is your identity badge, please keep it. The leader of the black-robed men took out a gold badge and handed it to Jiang Xi at the same time. He reminded him, in the Myriad Mountain Star Sea, you must be careful of those natives. As long as they kill you and get your identity badge, they can join the Purple Heaven sect. I'm aware of that. Jiang Xi nodded. The quest had mentioned this. Jiang Xi, don't underestimate these natives. In the past, many of the nascent Soul Realm core disciples that came here for experiential learning ended up falling into the hands of these natives. The tribulation immortal Taoist-robed youth smiled from the side. That's right. Although most of the natives are at the nascent soul stage, there are also many primordial soul stage and Tao integration stage natives who are very powerful. Of course, Senior Brother can also take action to kill them. Every single native has a silver emblem on them. As long as you can gather 10,000 silver badges, you can obtain the additional reward for this cultivation mission. The black-clothed man's leader said with a solemn expression. Jiang Xi's eyes lit up. Additional reward? Then, he simply refined the golden badge, passed through the boundary wall, and officially entered the Myriad Mountains Starry Sea. At the same time, at the edge of the Myriad Mountains Star Sea, in another inconspicuous palace. A skinny old man sat high above the palace. He was a tribulation transcender expert. Below him, 6 native cultivators were kneeling. 3 of them were at the early stage Tao integration stage, and the other 3 were at the late stage primordial soul stage. This is your target. Kill him, and in addition to becoming a disciple of the Purple Heaven sect, you can also obtain a low-grade immortal artifact. The skinny old man's tone was calm. With a wave of his hand, the phantom image of a black-haired youth appeared in front of the 6 native cultivators. They looked at each other with excitement hidden in their eyes. A low-grade immortal artifact, an immortal treasure. These are 9 supreme-grade spirit artifact soul extermination scrolls. They can easily kill cultivators below the immortal Tao realm. You 3 primordial soul stage cultivators, 3 each. The old man took out 9 purple talismans and handed them to the 3 late-stage primordial soul stage natives. Go, kill him. Understood. The 6 of them were very excited. Then, they flew toward the entrance of the Myriad Mountains Star Sea. After they left, the high and mighty skinny old man stood up respectfully. Not long after, a phantom image appeared in front of him. It was a middle-aged Taoist with a stiff face. Greetings, Lord Wu Yi. Is it done? It's done. Don't worry, Lord. There's a 60% chance of killing him this time. Very good. After it's done, you will be rewarded. The 2 of them did not talk much and quickly ended the communication. Purple Firmament Sect 5th Heaven, Immortal Wu Ye's Cave Abode. He crushed his communication bead and confirmed that there were no traces left behind. Even a 4th Heaven Nascent Soul Stage disciple can't guarantee that he can survive a hell-level mission. Since you're courting death, I can only accept it. Immortal Wu Yi was very patient. For the Purple Firmament Sword Sutra, he had been waiting. This was because Tao Lord 9 Firmament had personally issued a decree to allow Jiang Xi to cultivate the Purple Firmament Sword Sutra. Therefore, he did not dare to act on his own accord. This time, he finally had the chance. The Myriad Mountain Star Sea was different from other places. It was full of uncertainty. If Jiang Xi died there, it would be too normal. Even if there were suspicions, they would not be able to find anything. In the Myriad Mountain Star Sea, the majestic starry sky mountains were connected to each other. The nebula between the mountains was like seawater. After passing through the barrier wall, Jiang Xi was randomly teleported to the mountainside of a starry sky mountain. A mountain is bigger than 10,000 Earths. The dangers here are not just limited to those aboriginals. He cautiously observed his surroundings. The more peculiar and dangerous the environment, the more powerful life forms it could nurture. Whoosh, the nebula swirled. A gray one-eyed beast appeared in front of Jiang Xi. Roar! The one-eyed beast's eyes were filled with ferocity as it directly pounced at Jiang Xi. This is a soul beast. Jiang Xi's heart stirred. The mission information mentioned that the most common danger in the Myriad Mountain Star Sea was the soul beasts that could be seen everywhere. This was a powerful strange life form. Just like the one-eyed beast in front of him, the aura it emitted was comparable to the essence soul stage. With this thought in mind, Riverward threw out a punch. Boom! The strength of his body was comparable to 10 times that of a supreme-grade spirit artifact, giving him great strength and speed. Under this punch, the one-eyed beast's body instantly collapsed, turning into wisps of gray flowing light that circled in the sea of stars. You killed a mid-stage essence soul stage soul beast, experience points plus 8,800, the prompt of the experience points panel sounded. These gray streams of light seemed to have sensed the attraction and drilled into Riverward's body. Instantly refined. So soul beasts have such an effect. The strength of my spiritual sense seems to have increased a little. Jiang Xi's eyes lit up. The increase was very small. If he did not sense it carefully, he would not have noticed it at all. His weakest point now was the strength of his spiritual sense. His physical realm and Tao technique strength had both stepped into the Tao integration stage. Only the strength of his spiritual sense, which was also his soul, was still at the perfected nascent soul stage. If I can use these soul beasts to let my soul break through in advance, then my strength can really improve. Jiang Xi suddenly looked forward to it. Chapter 423. Most of the people training in the Myriad Mountains Starry Sea were natives. There weren't many disciples of the Purple Heaven sect. Every day, a large number of natives would arrive from various planets and enter the Myriad Mountains Starry Sea through the 4 entrances. When Jiang Xi entered, only the thousands of natives at the entrance knew that Jiang Xi was a core disciple of the Purple Heaven sect. However, these thousands of natives were enough to hide the 6 assassins. After all, the 6 of them were also natives. The Starry Sea flowed slowly. The Starry Mountains were like islands in the sea. At the foot of one of the Starry Mountains, 3 natives were walking together at the edge of the Starry Sea. "Uncle, we've already survived in the Myriad Mountains Starry Sea for 10 days. It seems that the difficulty of surviving here isn't as bad as the elders said," one of the nascent soul stage youths said with a smile. "That's because we're lucky," the nascent soul stage middle-aged man snorted. "Ha, I hope we'll be lucky enough to meet that core disciple." The other nascent soul stage youth beside him didn't care. They were the best of the younger generation in the tribe and were very confident. Suddenly, the nascent soul stage middle-aged man shouted, "Who's there?" The 2 nascent soul stage youths were stunned. "Is there someone here?" Splash! In the distant Starry Sea, a golden-haired youth walked on the waves and stopped in front of the 3. Tao integration stage. The 3 of them were shocked. Sensing the murderous intent from the golden-haired youth, the nascent soul stage middle-aged man hurriedly said, "Senior, we're from the Shandar tribe." The golden-haired youth's expression was cold. He slapped the 3 of them and turned them into nothingness. Only a mess of Dharma treasures and 3 silver badges were left. Still nothing. The golden-haired youth frowned. After the 6 of them received the assassination order, they spread out in the Myriad Mountains Starry Sea to search for Jiang Xi. After 10 days, as long as they met a nascent soul stage cultivator, they would kill them regardless of their status. Under normal circumstances, the core disciples of the Purple Heaven sect would survive in the Myriad Mountains Starry Sea for at least half a year. There's still enough time. The golden-haired youth's figure flashed and disappeared from the Starry Sea. Since they were chosen by the immortal Tao experts, they were naturally experts among the natives. Surviving in the Myriad Mountains Starry Sea for 1 or 2 months would not be a problem for them. In fact, with their talents, they could have applied to join the Purple Heaven sect long ago. However, they were different from the natives who wanted to enter the Purple Heaven sect. They belonged to the resistors, not wanting to succumb to the rule of the Purple Heaven sect. Therefore, even if they were talented enough, they would still live among the stars in the Myriad Mountains Starry Sea. This time, if it wasn't for that immortal Tao expert promising great benefits, he wouldn't have been able to escape. They were not willing to come to the Myriad Mountain Star Sea with this group of idiots. At the same time, in another part of the universe 10 billion kilometers away, a bald late-stage nascent divinity local cultivator was searching the area within 10,000 kilometers with his spiritual sense without any scruples. He was one of the 6 assassins. Although the Purple Heavens sect is loathsome, I have to admit that the magical treasures they craft are of the highest quality. A mere purple talisman could easily kill a cultivator below the immortal path. With 3 soul destruction scrolls, even if that core disciple of the Purple Heavens sect is comparable to a Tao integration stage cultivator, I won't be afraid. Moreover, can he compare to a Tao integration stage cultivator? It was already very heaven-defying for a nascent soul stage cultivator to have the combat power of a nascent soul stage cultivator. It was impossible for him to be comparable to a Tao integration stage cultivator. Jiang Xi didn't know what was going on in the dark, but he was still vigilant and cautious as he moved through the Myriad Mountain Star Sea. His spiritual sense had been covering a radius of 1,000 kilometers, which was the limit of his spiritual sense detection. Although it couldn't compare to the detection range of a nascent soul stage cultivator or a Tao integration stage cultivator, it was enough to ensure his safety. If he really encountered danger, he could escape in advance. The soul beasts here are really an unexpected gain. After 10 days, the strength of my spiritual sense has increased by 1/10,000th. Ever since he discovered that the gray airflow formed by the soul beasts after their deaths could strengthen the soul, he had set his goal on hunting soul beasts. Of course, he had encountered many natives during this period, but he hadn't encountered any that could threaten him. Although the natives are strong, their attack methods are very crude, and I have an inferior grade immortal weapon. In terms of attack, there aren't many that can beat me. Jiang Xi had a smile on his face. In the past 10 days, the natives he killed had also contributed hundreds of silver emblems to him. At this speed, it wouldn't be too difficult to gather 10,000 silver emblems. At this moment, he was walking along the edge of a huge starry mountain, beside which was a slowly flowing nebula. Suddenly, a 3-meter-tall wave rolled up in the sea of stars. Riverward's expression lit up. He had encountered another soul beast. Roar! Sure enough, a gray one-eyed soul beast bared its teeth and rushed out of the sea of stars. The aura it emitted was that of a late-stage essence soul. Jiang Xi was about to make a move. But in the next moment, the sea of stars behind the one-eyed soul beast changed. It turned into a black hole vortex that seemed to be able to devour everything, and a huge suction force appeared. Roar! The one-eyed soul beast closest to the vortex didn't even have time to struggle before it was swallowed by the vortex. Even a late-stage essence soul couldn't resist the powerful suction force. Retreat! Jiang Xi's expression changed drastically. However, the powerful suction force made it difficult for him to speed up. Fortunately, his body was strong enough. Relying on his tyrannical body, he retreated 1,000 miles to get rid of the powerful suction force. Looking back, he saw that the terrifying vortex was gradually calming down. Is this an unknown danger? Jiang Xi felt a wave of lingering fear. If he had rushed up to kill that soul beast just now, he would have been in danger. The appearance of that vortex didn't have any warning signs, as if it was unpredictable. I knew that this mission couldn't be so simple. Jiang Xi's expression was solemn. In the first 10 days of experience, he had only encountered soul beasts and natives, and had not encountered a vortex. This was the first time. Next, Jiang Xi walked another 3,000 kilometers, completely away from the location where the vortex had appeared. At this moment, his spiritual sense discovered that there were 2 late-stage nascent soul natives resting in a valley more than 600 kilometers away. This scene was very common, but the conversation between the 2 natives interested Jiang Xi. I've heard from the elders in my clan that the Myriad Mountain Star Sea is our ancestral land. But for countless years, our inheritance has been occupied by the Purple Heaven sect. We can only watch as they send their disciples here to obtain the inheritance of our ancestral land. Don't think about these useless things. We still have 3 days to complete a month of survival experience. At that time, we can apply to join the Purple Heaven sect and become their disciple. When we return to the Myriad Mountain Star Sea, we might have a chance to obtain the inheritance. Sigh, how sad. The two natives sighed. Chapter 424. The Purple Heaven sect often sends disciples here to accept the inheritance. Jiang Xi was a little confused when he heard this with his spiritual consciousness. He had come to the Myriad Mountain Star Sea to complete the cultivation mission, not to accept any inheritance. When he had accepted this mission, it had not mentioned this. However, in the mission introduction, it had said that the Myriad Mountain Star Sea was the inheritance ancestral land of these indigenous tribes. Suddenly, Jiang Xi had a flash of inspiration as he thought of something. Cultivation mission. Inheritance. The indigenous tribes don't know that the core disciples of the Purple Heaven sect came to the Myriad Mountain Star Sea to complete cultivation missions. Therefore, they mistakenly think that we were sent here by the Purple Heaven sect to obtain the inheritance. But what if these indigenous tribes think that we are right? Is the cultivation mission as simple as completing the mission and obtaining points? If they simply wanted to train their disciples, the upper echelons of the Purple Heaven sect could open up a Grotto Heaven world in the sect and throw their disciples in to train. There was no need to go through the trouble of issuing various cultivation missions and sending their disciples to various dangerous mystic realms to train. Perhaps I can speculate that these so-called cultivation missions contain opportunities. Jiang Xi's eyes lit up. And these opportunities needed to be discovered by themselves. Just like the cultivation missions in the Dao pattern continent, there were various opportunities hidden, such as Dao pattern techniques, Dao pattern blood crystals, fallen god's land. If I had only thought of completing the first mission and obtaining a Dao pattern blood crystal to end the mission, there would not have been any opportunities after that. It was not just the Dao pattern continent. Jiang Xi remembered. The few dangerous level cultivation missions he had done before had similar opportunities. For example, in the core of the Clear Moon mystic realm, there was a huge clear moon stone that made people feel relaxed and happy. There was also the cultivation mission in the Vero planet. The abyss on that planet also contained secrets. However, at that time, he was in a hurry to complete the mission. In addition, there were many uncontrollable dangers, so he did not investigate these cultivation missions too much. I'm afraid these hidden opportunities are the real purpose of the Purple Heaven sect issuing the cultivation missions. While training the disciples, they can also allow the disciples to obtain great benefits. However, this great benefit can only be obtained by those with excellent strength, temperament, willpower, and luck. And these are the basic factors to become a powerhouse. The more Jiang Xi thought about it, the more he felt that his speculation was correct. The opportunity of the Myriad Mountains Starry Sea is the inheritance that the Aboriginals speak of? That's very likely. After thinking for a while, he shook his head again. Based on my past experiences in missions, opportunities can only be encountered by chance. If you deliberately pursue it, you will only put yourself in danger. Back at the Battle Pattern continent, if he hadn't obtained the 5 Elements Battle Emperor's Dao pattern art from Yunxiang right from the start, he wouldn't have been able to obtain it. Even after he went to the land of the fallen gods, he did not encounter any subsequent opportunities. Moreover, there was a possibility that they would be killed by Cos men. Because he cultivated the 5 Elements Battle Emperor's Dao pattern art, his body's realm was far beyond ordinary Dao pattern cultivators. Now, he had not figured out the situation of the Myriad Mountains Starry Sea. If he rashly went to search, he would easily run into danger. Jiang Xi temporarily put this matter at the bottom of his heart. His current goal was to complete the survival requirement of the cultivation mission. At the same time, he hunted those soul beasts to strengthen his soul and spiritual sense. Anyway, He had enough time to search slowly. I have to thank these two natives for reminding me. Therefore, Jiang Xi decided to spare their lives. He was ready to go to other places to take a look. But before he could leave, the situation in the distance changed. Dao integration stage. His spiritual sense discovered that a golden-haired young man appeared out of thin air in a valley more than 600 kilometers away. He killed the two late-stage nascent soul stage natives with a slap. Then, he turned his gaze to him. Let's go. Jiang Xi did not intend to take the risk and turned to leave. It's him. The golden-haired young man was extremely excited. His figure flashed and he chased after Jiang Xi. A distance of more than 600 kilometers was crossed in one step for a Dao integration stage cultivator, so fast. The golden-haired young man was surprised to find that Jiang Xi's speed was almost the same as his. When he came to Jiang Xi's position just now, Jiang Xi was already 600 kilometers away. This is the strength of a level 3 disciple of the Purple Heaven sect. He's only at the perfected nascent soul stage, but his speed is comparable to that of a Dao integration stage cultivator. No wonder he was targeted by a tribulation transcendent powerhouse. The golden-haired young man was shocked. However, he did not retreat because of Jiang Xi's amazing talent. The internal grievances of the Purple Heaven sect had nothing to do with him. He only cared about killing people and then getting the reward. No matter how fast he is, he's only at the perfected nascent soul stage. He can't escape from my pursuit. The golden-haired young man's eyes were cold. Although he was at the mid-stage Dao integration stage, his actual combat strength was not weaker than that of a late-stage Dao integration stage cultivator. In front of him, Jiang Xi frowned. A mid-stage Dao integration stage native cultivator had the strength to survive in the myriad mountain star sea for a full month. It was not worthwhile to chase him and kill him, a core disciple, to get the gold badge. This was too much. Although this golden-haired young man is at the mid-stage Dao integration stage, he vaguely exudes an aura that frightens me. I can't take the risk to fight with him. Jiang Xi was confident that his close combat strength was comparable to that of a mid-stage Dao integration stage cultivator. Before he knew the specific strength of the other party and what methods he had, it was better not to take the risk. This guy doesn't have the arrogance of a genius at all. He's very cautious. This is troublesome. The golden-haired young man had a bad feeling. The two of them chased each other in the Star Sea and soon crossed 100,000 kilometers. Roar! Roar! Whoosh! There was a sudden movement in the Star Sea between the two starry mountains in front of them. Thousands of gray soul beasts rushed out of the void. Each of them exuded a monstrous fierce aura and rushed toward the two of them with bared fangs and brandished claws. Oh my god! Jiang Xi was startled. Had they broken into a soul beast nest? Of these thousands of soul beasts, more than half were at the nascent soul stage, and the other half were at the essence soul stage. The most shocking thing was that 4 of them were obviously different. The others had 1 eye, while those 4 had 2 eyes. One of them was 100,000 feet tall 2-eyed soul beast that exuded the aura of a late-stage Dao integration stage soul beast. It was obvious that this was really a soul beast nest. Roar! The soul beast first attacked Jiang Xi. Boom boom boom. Riverward used his tyrannical body to knock away over 100 primordial spirit stage soul beasts and an early stage Dao integration stage soul beast that were blocking his path. He violently broke through the blockade. Just as Jiang Xi was about to escape, the Dao integration final stage 2-eyed soul beast unleashed a deafening beast roar. Roar! Whoosh! This roar exuded an indescribable invisible attack. Crap! This is a spiritual sense attack. Jiang Xi's expression changed drastically. He felt like his head was about to split open, and even his soul was trembling. It was as if his soul was going to dissipate in the next instant. However, Right at this moment, the golden spiritual sense light of the Guanji image in his mind suddenly became extremely bright. It directly destroyed the spiritual sense attack. Swish! Jiang Xi's body pierced through the air and disappeared. Chapter 425. This scene stunned the mid-stage Dao integration blonde youth. He was extremely shocked. What kind of physical strength is this? He sent hundreds of essence soul beasts and one Dao integration soul beast flying. How is this possible? That was a spiritual sense attack from a late-stage Dao integration soul beast. Even if I was hit, I would be injured. How could he withstand it so easily? While the blonde youth was still in shock, the thousands of soul beasts that had lost their target turned their firepower to him. Oh no! Facing the ferocious soul beast horde, he could only flee frantically. However, after he fled for more than 100 kilometers, those soul beasts stopped chasing him. Obviously, that place just now was the lair of that group of soul beasts. That was close. If he had been a little slower just now, he would have been surrounded by the soul beasts. Even a late-stage Dao integration soul beast would not have been able to escape. It's a pity that Jiang Xi escaped. The next time we meet, he won't be so lucky. The blonde youth's eyes were cold. This encounter allowed him to see the amazing talent of the core disciples of the Purple Heaven sect. But at the same time, he also confirmed that Jiang Xi was no match for him. No matter how talented he was, he had only cultivated for a short time and did not have as deep a foundation as him, a true mid-stage Dao integration soul beast. Jiang Xi ran for a full 100,000 kilometers before he stopped and climbed up a starry sky mountain that was 10,000 kilometers high. This position and distance were the limits of a late-stage Dao integration soul beast's spiritual sense detection. After confirming that there was no danger, he heaved a sigh of relief. Sitting cross-legged on the peak of the starry sky mountain, he looked at the sea of stars and pondered carefully. After calming down and thinking carefully, he felt that there was something wrong with being chased just now. This blonde youth is a mid-stage Dao integration soul beast. With such strength, it would be easy for him to join the Purple Heaven sect. There is no need for him to kill a core disciple to enter the Purple Heaven sect. Moreover, the excited expression on his face when he found me just now was not normal. Was he being targeted? No, no. Jiang Xi shook his head again and again. When I entered the myriad mountain star sea, only the thousands of natives at the entrance palace saw me. But this blonde youth was not among them at that time. He has never seen me before, so it is impossible for him to know that I am a core disciple of the Purple Heaven sect. Jiang Xi was sure that he had never seen this blonde youth before. Previously, when he was at the entrance of the palace, he had glanced at the group of natives. With the spiritual sense of a peak nascent soul cultivator, he could easily remember the appearances of those natives. Someone wants to get rid of me. Is that why you secretly instructed the native experts to hunt me down? After coming to Purple Heaven sect, the one who really had a conflict with me was immortal Wu Yi. Could it be him? Of course, it could also be an enemy of Master, the Wine Sword Immortal. When Master was traveling in the original universe, he used his sword to wipe out countless injustices. He also offended a lot of people, some of whom are still alive. Those who can be offended by Master are naturally not simple. Jiang Xi made bold guesses, and these thoughts surfaced in his mind. However, he was unable to confirm these conjectures. However, he couldn't rule out the possibility that someone among the thousands of natives knew the golden-haired young man and told him about his identity. I'll deal with whatever comes my way. As long as I don't encounter an immortal Dao expert, even if there is danger, it won't threaten my life. Jiang Xi didn't dwell on this issue and continued to hunt those soul beasts. However, he became even more cautious. Roar! There were also soul beasts living in the barren strange stone forest on the mountain peak. After sensing the existence of Jiang Xi, a one-eyed soul beast in the late nascent soul stage ferociously pounced over. This time, Jiang Xi didn't immediately kill it. Instead, he pressed the one-eyed soul beast to the ground and experimented. Roar! The gray one-eyed soul beast roared crazily and struggled. Buzz! Accompanied by the beast's roar, a spiritual sense attack appeared in the next moment. Jiang Xi felt as if his spiritual sense had been pricked by a needle. At this moment, the image of self-observation in his mind emitted a golden spiritual sense light and easily dispelled this spiritual sense attack. Sure enough, the soul beast's true method is its spiritual sense attack. Jiang Xi smiled and then directly used his strength to slap this late nascent soul stage one-eyed soul beast to death. A wisp of gray air appeared and became the nourishment for his spiritual sense. The soul beasts he encountered before, even if they were at the late essence soul stage, he could easily kill them. The soul beasts didn't have the chance to use their spiritual sense attack at all. If it wasn't for the late Tao integration stage soul beast's spiritual sense attack, he would have died. He had always thought that soul beasts relied on their strong bodies to fight. I just didn't expect the image of self-observation to have such an ability. As expected of the mysterious inheritance of Buddhism. Through the experiment just now, coupled with the attack of the late Tao integration stage soul beast on him, he could confirm that the image of self-observation could defend against the spiritual sense attack of a late Tao integration stage soul beast. Now I have another method. The only shortcoming is that I can't use my spiritual sense attack and can only defend passively. Jiang Xi smiled. He wasn't too greedy. This was enough. Although the strength of his spiritual sense was weak, his defense wasn't weak. Let's clear the soul beasts on this huge starry sky mountain first. These soul beasts should be able to increase the strength of my spiritual sense by a lot. Jiang Xi took the initiative to enter the strange stone forest in front of him to search for those soul beasts. As long as it wasn't a Tao integration stage soul beast, it would be difficult to resist his green lotus sword Tao. Roar! Soon, the roar of a soul beast could be heard. At the same time, in the star sea not far from this huge starry sky mountain, a bald late essence soul stage youth killed a late nascent soul stage native with one punch. After seeing the silver badge, the bald youth shook his head gently. How long will it take to find him? There are many soul beasts in the myriad mountain star sea. That core disciple called Jiang Xi shouldn't be killed by the soul beasts first. In his opinion, this was not impossible. There's movement up there. The bald youth moved lightly and his body left afterimages as he quickly approached the 10,000-kilometer-tall starry sky mountain. The spiritual sense of a late essence soul stage cultivator could detect the situation within a 10,000-kilometer radius. Then, his spiritual sense discovered Jiang Xi at the top of the mountain. Ha! Looks like I'm lucky to be the first to discover him. The bald youth laughed loudly. A 10,000-kilometer-tall starry sky mountain was definitely impossible for ordinary people to climb up. In front of a late essence soul stage cultivator, it was a piece of cake. Every step of the bald youth covered hundreds of kilometers. Even if there were soul beasts in his way, they would be killed by him. Soon, he was only 1,000 kilometers away from the top of the mountain. On the top of the mountain, Jiang Xi had just killed a soul beast with one strike and was about to absorb the gray air current that the soul beast had transformed into. All of a sudden, his movements stopped. Late essence soul stage. He discovered a late essence soul stage native approaching the top of the mountain at an extremely fast speed. It was obvious that he was coming for him. Something's wrong. Chapter 426. Jiang Xi's spiritual awareness clearly detected the bald youth's movements. Look at the excited expression on his face. It's obvious that he knows me. But I've never seen this person before. The Dao integration stage golden-haired youth he had met not long ago had the same reaction. Their expressions were very similar. The vigilance in Riverward's heart immediately increased greatly. He was now completely sure that someone was targeting him. Doing something behind my back. I'd like to see who it is. Jiang Xi's eyes flashed coldly. Suddenly, he disappeared on the spot. He took the initiative to meet him. The bald youth, who was running wildly toward the top of the mountain, was delighted when he saw Jiang Xi's actions. Not running. Very good. It would be troublesome if he ran. According to the Immortal Dao Elite, this Jiang Xi is a core disciple of the Purple Heaven Sect's Level 3. His talent is amazing. Although he's still at the peak of the nascent soul stage, his strength can definitely reach the late essence soul stage or even higher. The safest way is to directly use the soul destruction scroll. The bald youth was also a genius among the natives. He was not a simple-minded person. A purple soul destruction scroll talisman appeared in his hand. His spiritual awareness locked onto Jiang Xi and he directly threw it out. The purple talisman turned into a purple-black light. Like lightning, it pierced through space and attacked Jiang Xi, who was hundreds of kilometers away. As long as you're not an immortal, you can't block the attack of the soul destruction scroll. So, die. Oh no. Jiang Xi's expression changed drastically. The moment the bald youth took out the soul destruction scroll, he discovered it. Last time on the Dou Pattern continent, he used the Supreme Grade Soul Destruction Scroll to kill 2 4-striped Dou Grandmasters who were equivalent to the Dao integration stage. He was very clear about the power of this one-time use Dharma treasure. However, all of this happened in the blink of an eye. In addition, the two of them were moving toward each other. The attack of the soul destruction scroll became even faster. In other words, there was no time to dodge. In an instant, the purple-black light arrived in front of Jiang Xi and drilled into Jiang Xi's mind. Buzz! His soul trembled as if it was facing an unprecedented crisis. It was as if it was going to be blown away by the wind. His sea of knowledge was surging, and his spiritual awareness was also collapsing. Jiang Xi's consciousness became blurry. However, at this moment, the image of oneself in his mind shone brightly, illuminating his entire sea of consciousness. Suppress. The image of viewing self directly suppressed and crushed the purplish-black light formed by the soul-destroying scroll. At the same time, the bald youth arrived in front of Jiang Xi. He was prepared to collect the spoils of war. Phew! Jiang Xi regained consciousness. What? He withstood it. The bald young man's expression changed drastically. He couldn't believe it. Just now, he clearly felt that Jiang Xi's spiritual sense was about to disappear. Jiang Xi's expression was cold as he swung his sword. Whoosh! The sword light sliced through the air as the Red Cloud Sword, a low-grade immortal artifact, sliced the late-stage nascent soul realm native into 2. Just as his primordial spirit was about to dissipate, Jiang Xi pressed down on his head again. Just as he was about to search his soul, the origin spirit of this bald youth emitted an aura that made his heart tremble. Immortal Dao restrictive spell. Jiang Xi's expression was aghast, and he immediately flew backward. Whoosh! A supreme-grade flying ship appeared and then disappeared in a flash. Boom! The bald youth's primordial spirit directly exploded, and the powerful impact spread to a radius of tens of thousands of kilometers. Monstrous waves were set off in the Star Sea, and this huge mountain in the starry sky directly shrank by thousands of kilometers. This power was completely enough to destroy a small planet. At the same time, at the edge of the myriad mountain Star Sea, a group of palaces suspended in the starry sky. In an inconspicuous palace, the skinny old man at the Tribulation Transcendent stage was cultivating with his eyes closed. At this time, he opened his eyes, and a trace of divine light flashed in his eyes. I killed a late-stage nascent soul realm native? Of course, the immortal Tao restrictive spell on those 6 people was set up by him. With his strength, he could have done this quietly, and those 6 natives wouldn't have noticed at all. If the power of my restrictive spell is close enough, even late-stage Tao integration cultivators won't be able to resist it. Is that person still alive? Unfortunately, only perfected cultivators of the sects can check the life slips of 3rd and 4th heaven's disciples. Therefore, the skinny old man couldn't confirm whether Jiang Xi was still alive or not. Let's wait a little longer. 200,000 kilometers away from the explosion point of the immortal Tao restrictive spell, a flying ship appeared out of thin air. Jiang Xi's face was pale, but his reaction was already very fast. He drove the supreme-grade flying ship and instantly traveled 200,000 kilometers at sublight speed. However, he was still affected by the explosion of the immortal Tao restrictive spell. If not for the fact that my body is 10 times stronger than a supreme-grade spirit artifact, I'm afraid I would have been killed. And fortunately, I was at the top of the mountain just now. If I was at the bottom of the mountain, the flying ship wouldn't have room to accelerate at all. Even if my body is strong enough, I wouldn't have been able to withstand the power of the core of the explosion. Who wants to harm me? This is too ruthless. There was no way for him to survive at all. The supreme-grade spirit artifact soul-slaying scroll could be directly killed as long as it wasn't an immortal at a close enough distance. If not for the mysterious self-viewing image, his soul would have been extinguished at that time. However, even if he avoided the soul-slaying scroll, there were still immortal Tao restrictive spells waiting for him. Those were immortal Tao restrictive spells that could destroy a planet. And that golden-haired young man, when he had encountered the mid-stage Tao integration golden-haired young man, he had sensed that the other party was emitting an aura that frightened him. Now that he thought about it, the other party probably had a similar immortal Tao restrictive spell on him. At that time, if he had chosen to fight with the golden-haired young man, even if he had killed him, the immortal Tao restrictive spell would have exploded. The person behind this is also very cautious. The existence of the immortal Tao restrictive spell made it impossible for me to even search his soul. This was troublesome. Should he give up this mission and hide at home? Jiang Xi shook his head. He couldn't hide forever. As long as the other party wanted to kill him, they could do it the next time he went out. So he couldn't hide. They only dare to do things behind my back and don't dare to attack me openly. They must be afraid of something. Even if they're immortals, they're not the strongest among immortals. If that's the case, then there's nothing to be afraid of. Jiang Xi's eyes were cold. As long as it wasn't an immortal Tao expert who personally made a move, there was still a chance. Then, he drove the flying ship through millions of kilometers and arrived at another place in the myriad mountain star sea. In a situation where he didn't know his opponent, he could only deal with all changes by sticking to the status quo. The right thing to do was to increase his strength first. He continued to hunt those soul beasts to strengthen his soul and spiritual sense. The crisis just now made Jiang Xi realize the importance of the strength of his soul and spiritual sense. He could resist the supreme-grade spirit artifact soul annihilation post, but it didn't mean that he could resist the immortal-grade soul annihilation post. Roar! 3 one-eyed essence soul stage soul beasts rushed out of the star sea and directly pounced on Jiang Xi. I was just worried about where to vent my anger. Jiang Xi snorted coldly. Scarlet Heaven sword slashed continuously and directly killed the 3 one-eyed soul beasts. A few wisps of gray air appeared and were absorbed and refined by Jiang Xi. Then, he was about to go to other places to continue searching for soul beasts when the situation changed again. What made Jiang Xi have a good impression of Qi Song was that he was a person who knew how to repay kindness. This was because he had such a style of doing things. After Qi Song rose, he first bought his home planet from a slave merchant and turned it into a normal life planet. Secondly, the immortal sect that gave Qi Song the opportunity to cultivate also became a top force in that star region with Qi Song's help. Now, it seemed that Qi Song was doing the same cultivation mission in the Myriad Mountains Star Sea. Since he asked for help, I can't just leave. Jiang Xi's thoughts turned quickly and he decided to make a move. Those thoughts just now only took a moment. It didn't take much time. Whoosh, he turned around and faced the attack with his sword. Chapter 428. Jiang Xi didn't find it strange that Qi Song could recognize him. The cloud top competition was around the corner, and he had collected information on the others. The others must have collected information on him as well. At this moment, Qi Song and the late-stage Dao integration dualized soul beast were still fighting 700 to 800 kilometers away. Jiang Xi's figure flashed continuously, and in the blink of an eye, he arrived at the place where they were fighting. Roar! The 10,000 feet tall dualized soul beast roared and used its spiritual sense attack. It gave one a splitting headache and waves of dizziness. However, Jiang Xi had the visualization image to suppress his spiritual sense, so he wasn't afraid of these spiritual sense attacks at all. The inferior-grade immortal artifact Red Cloud Sword transformed into a huge green lotus that restricted the dualized soul beast's movements. Roar! The soul beast roared angrily. Qi Song didn't let go of this good opportunity. He held his dagger and transformed into thousands of illusions. All the illusions attacked at the same time, hitting the soul beast's fatal points. Swoosh swoosh swoosh, Jiang Xi's mind moved, and the huge green lotus transformed into countless sword lights that struck the final blow. Finishing blow. The late-stage Dao integration dualized soul beast suddenly turned into a large amount of gray air current. You killed a late-stage Dao integration soul beast. Experience points plus 26,000, Jiang Xi withdrew his sword, and the experience points panel sounded in his mind. Ha, Jiang Xi, thank you very much. If not for you, I would have been in a sorry state just now. Qi Song had a simple and honest smile on his face as he cupped his hands and thanked Jiang Xi. You're welcome. Jiang Xi shook his head and chuckled. He didn't underestimate the core disciple of the fourth heaven. Although this dualized soul beast was at the late stage Dao integration, it had low intelligence and simple attack patterns. It wasn't as difficult to kill it as expected. Since Qi Song could resist the soul beast's spiritual sense attack, it meant that his methods and strength were not bad. Moreover, his dagger was also an inferior-grade immortal artifact like Red Cloud Sword. It could easily break through the soul beast's defense. Even without his help, Qi Song could kill this soul beast with his strength. It would just take a little more time, half each. Qi Song pointed at the gray air current in front of him. Sure. Jiang Xi nodded. Qi Song gently waved the dagger in his hand, and the gray stream of air split into two. Both of them absorbed and refined the energy. Jiang Xi immediately felt that the strength of his spiritual sense had increased by a large margin. As expected of a Dao integration final stage soul beast. Just half of this gray energy is equivalent to the total amount of soul beasts I killed in a month. In this way, Jiang Xi felt that it was even more worth it to make a move. It was a pity that Dao integration final stage soul beasts were not that easy to encounter. Otherwise, if he could hunt a large number of them, the strength of his soul sense would increase even faster. Jiang Xi, you've got more guts than I thought. You've only been in the Purple Heaven sect for 100 years, and you've already dared to take on a hell-level mission, Qi Song praised from the bottom of his heart after he had also finished refining. Because Jiang Xi's fame was too great recently, especially after he passed the 7th stage of the sky-connecting mountain. It also attracted the attention of all the nascent soul stage disciples in the 3rd and 4th heavens. This was a genius and a formidable opponent. Jiang Xi smiled and didn't say anything. In terms of guts, Qi Song was much more gutsy than him. There were many ways to select core disciples in the Purple Heaven sect. The Nine Zones Genius Battle was just one of them. Soul beasts all appear from the void. You should know this, right? Jiang Xi nodded. Qi Song continued, the pattern of the appearance of soul beasts follows the pattern of the weakest and the strongest. Where there are nascent soul beasts, there will definitely be Dao integration soul beasts, and vice versa. Moreover, there will definitely be a soul beast group here. As for essence soul beasts, they are basically all alone. Riverward came to a sudden realization. It was no wonder that most of the soul beasts he encountered were at the nascent soul stage. It turned out that nascent soul and Dao integration soul beasts existed in packs. So the late-stage Dao integration soul beast you killed at the top of the mountain wasn't by chance? Jiang Xi asked again. That's right. I first encountered an early-stage nascent soul beast, and then I knew that late-stage Dao integration soul beasts would appear there. I just didn't expect late-stage Dao integration soul beasts to be so difficult to deal with. If it weren't for your help, I'm afraid I would have to give up in the end. Qi Song laughed. Jiang Xi felt that this was very useful information. In the future, he could also use this pattern to hunt Dao integration soul beasts. Actually, there are many dangers in the myriad mountain star sea that follow a pattern. Soul beasts are just one of them, and there's also the appearance of the nebula vortex. Qi Song pretended to smile mysteriously. Chapter 429. The Pattern of the Nebula Whirlpool. Jiang Xi's eyes flashed. He had tried to find the pattern before, but he couldn't find it. That's right. In my opinion, the nebula whirlpool is the biggest danger in the infinite mountain star sea. The number of people swallowed by the whirlpool is more than the number of people killed by the spirit beasts. That's why I studied it for a year and found some patterns of the nebula whirlpool. Qi Song nodded and smiled. His honest smile made people feel good about him. Is it related to the nebula waves? Jiang Xi was puzzled. Every time the nebula whirlpool appeared, there would be waves before it turned into a whirlpool. Yes, and no. Qi Song smiled. This made Jiang Xi even more puzzled. The pattern I found is actually very simple. The larger the nebula waves, the smaller the suction force of the nebula whirlpool, and vice versa. Qi Song laughed. Jiang Xi's heart skipped a beat, and he quickly recalled the nebula whirlpools he had encountered before. He found that there was indeed such a pattern, but he had encountered few whirlpools, so he couldn't conclude the pattern. Then why did you say no? Jiang Xi asked. Because this is only the pattern of the whirlpool's appearance. I haven't found how the nebula waves appear. Otherwise, I'm confident that I can survive longer in the infinite mountain star sea, and maybe find the ancestral land of the aboriginals. Qi Song sighed. Jiang Xi nodded lightly. Although the nebula whirlpool was dangerous, it was ultimately formed by the nebula waves. Only by finding the pattern of the nebula waves' appearance could he avoid this danger. Okay, I've told you everything I know. Consider it as payment for your help. Let's go our separate ways. Qi Song joked. Then, see you at the cloud top competition. Jiang Xi laughed heartily. Goodbye. They were both geniuses, so of course they didn't plan to travel together. The two of them turned their backs to each other. Suddenly, Qi Song lifted his leg and kicked Jiang Xi at lightning speed. Humph. Unexpectedly, Jiang Xi was already prepared, and he gave a roundhouse kick. Boom! But in this exchange, it was Riverward who took the upper hand. His body was 10 times stronger than a supreme-grade spiritual weapon, which gave him great strength and speed. He kicked Qi Song away. What a strong body. Qi Song was shocked. This was information that he had not gathered. Then you deserve to die even more. Goodbye. He sneered again, then turned and left. Jiang Xi was expressionless. His previous enthusiasm had disappeared without a trace. He was such a cautious person, how could he easily expose his back to the other party? However, Xiao Chen was puzzled. Qi Song's action of turning around and leaving was somewhat baffling. Wasn't this hypocritical fellow a little too overconfident? However, Jiang Xi did not plan to let him go. His sword flashed as he attacked Qi Song. Crash! Almost instantly, a nebula vortex appeared not far from Jiang Xi. Not good. Jiang Xi's expression changed drastically. The powerful devouring gravitational force bound him, making him unable to break free. The gravitational force this time was far stronger than the vortexes he had encountered before. Flying boat. At the critical moment, a supreme-grade flying boat appeared. He wanted to use the flying boat's power to break free from the devouring gravitational force. Speed up. Speed up. The flying boat's acceleration caused the nearby space to become chaotic and the nebula to circulate. The situation was in a deadlock. If I work harder, I can get rid of it. Jiang Xi's face was ferocious. He knew that after the vortex appeared, it would last for a while before disappearing. But at this moment, Qi Song, who was already 100 kilometers away, took out a supreme-grade spiritual weapon long sword and directly threw it. Swoosh! The long sword cut through the space and crashed into Jiang Xi's flying boat. Although Qi Song did not use a sword, with his strength, the power of a casual throw. In addition to the devouring gravitational force of the vortex, it was enough to break the deadlock between the flying boat and the vortex. Whoosh whoosh. The nebula vortex instantly swallowed the flying boat and Jiang Xi together. A moment later, the nebula vortex disappeared, and the sea of stars returned to its calm state. Qi Song came to this position. His honest face was filled with a sinister expression, a supreme-grade spiritual weapon in exchange for the life of a strong opponent. A great deal. Jiang Xi, although we have no enmity, you are too big of a threat to me. Only your death can guarantee that my position in the fourth heaven will not be shaken. Under normal circumstances, there could only be 3 nascent soul disciples in the fourth heaven. Among the 3 senior disciples, Qi Song was the youngest and did not have as deep a foundation as the other 2 senior disciples. From Qi Song's point of view, even in this Cloud Summit competition, Jiang Xi was not a threat to his position. With Jiang Xi's talent, next time, and the time after that, it was hard to say. It was best to take advantage of this opportunity to get rid of the threat. Qi Song's gaze was ruthless as he stared at the slowly flowing sea of stars. This time, he used 2 advantages to create this opportunity. After hunting spirit beasts for more than 3 years, under the nourishment of the gray airflow, my spiritual consciousness has already broken through the limits of the perfected nascent soul. The range of detection has increased from 1,000 kilometers to 1,500 kilometers. Also, I know the pattern of the nebula wave's appearance. After a spirit beast horde appears from nothingness, there will definitely be nebula waves nearby. The larger the beast horde, the smaller the waves, and the stronger the whirlpool. In order to hunt spirit beasts at the Tao integration stage, he had hidden in this huge mountain in the starry sky for a month. Before this, he had already killed a spirit beast at the Tao integration stage and lured out a spirit beast horde. Therefore, he was very clear about the location of the nebula wave's appearance. Just now, he had asked Jiang Xi for help on purpose. Because his spiritual consciousness detection range was 500 kilometers higher than Jiang Xi's, he had already discovered Jiang Xi. Then, everything that happened next happened. Including the spirit beast horde's pursuit, he deliberately ran first and brought Jiang Xi here. No one will investigate the death of a core disciple in the myriad mountains' starry sea. Even if someone investigates, they won't be able to trace it back to me. I will never allow anyone to threaten my position. Qisong's expression was resolute. The experience of growing up in his childhood had created two completely different personalities. On the surface, he was simple, honest, and amiable. On the inside, he was vicious and unscrupulous. This was the biggest crisis Jiang Xi had faced since he embarked on the path of cultivation. The danger was unknown, and the probability of survival was unknown. The nebula whirlpool seemed to be infinitely long. Jiang Xi was sucked in by the gravitational force and descended an unknown distance. Chance. There must be a chance. Jiang Xi still maintained a sense of calmness. Since he had not died immediately after being swallowed, it meant that there was still a chance. Whoosh whoosh, his figure descended at an extremely fast speed, descending. After an unknown period of time. Suddenly, a faint sound reached Jiang Xi's ears. Roar, woo! It was not an angry roar, but a low cry and whimper of a young beast. Spirit beast? Could it be that the nebula whirlpool really leads to nothingness? Jiang Xi's heart stirred. Chapter 430. Roar. Woo. Low growls could be heard continuously. Although he guessed that the nebula vortex might lead to the void space where the soul beasts were. But these low growls also proved that it was very dangerous below. There might be a large number of soul beasts in the void space, tens of thousands or even millions. With so many soul beasts, it could be said to be a dangerous place. Therefore, Jiang Xi didn't have the mood to think about anger or revenge. Surviving and finding a chance of survival was what he should do. Roar. The beast growls became clearer and clearer. Hua, suddenly, the devouring force disappeared. Below, it suddenly became clear. This was a huge space, surrounded by endless darkness. In the darkness, there were valleys that were slightly emitting light. Each valley was incomparably huge, and one couldn't see the end. There were a total of 36 valleys. Jiang Xi held his breath. At this moment, he was floating above one of the valleys at a low altitude. In the valley below, there were hundreds of thousands of soul beasts of different sizes. With a glance, he even saw 2 soul beasts emitting immortal Tao aura, and their bodies were as long as 1,000,000 feet. It's really the soul beast's lair. Jiang Xi was shocked and bitter at the same time. Fortunately, most of the soul beasts were sleeping, and even the 2 immortal Tao soul beasts were sleeping. Those low growls were made by the soul beasts in their sleep. He didn't dare to make any movements for fear of attracting the attention of the soul beasts. Jiang Xi's eyes lit up. He saw that in the valley below, a vortex with a diameter of about 3 kilometers had appeared out of thin air, and then a nascent soul beast beside it disappeared. So this is how the soul beasts of the myriad mountain star sea appear. Are those vortexes also nebula vortexes? Before he could finish this thought, he discovered that within the range of his spiritual sense, which was within 1,000 kilometers, another 4 vortexes had appeared one after another. This is an opportunity. Jiang Xi realized this point. He could use those vortexes to return to the myriad mountain star sea. Wait for a vortex that is close enough, then leave directly. He definitely couldn't make any big movements now. If he woke up the soul beasts, it would really be over. Bang! 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 At this moment, a series of soft crashing sounds came from afar. Roar! Some soul beasts were roaring furiously, as if they were enraged. Along with these voices, a faint white light appeared in the distance. Jiang Xi's heart skipped a beat. He probed with his spiritual awareness but found nothing there. Something was wrong. The location of the white light was only a little more than 100 kilometers away from here. With his spiritual sense, he could completely investigate everything clearly. Furthermore, there were many soul beasts in the valley, so that place couldn't be empty. His eyes narrowed slightly as he focused his vision. Vaguely, he was finally able to see something clearly. That's a palace. It was very blurry, but he could confirm that there was a palace under the cover of the white light. Some of the soul beasts that were close to the light barrier were ramming into it. With each collision, the light screen would emit a faint white light. There were even Dao integration stage soul beasts that tried to ram into the light barrier, but they were still blocked by the light barrier. This made Jiang Xi very surprised. The white curtain of light was definitely an array formation, but it was quite powerful. He looked at the other parts of the dark space. Here, he could clearly see the general appearance of the 36 huge valleys. However, 26 of them were emitting a golden light, while the other 10 were emitting a faint white light. There might be similar light screens in these valleys, and there's a palace in each valley. Could it be that these palaces are the ancestral lands of the indigenous tribes? This thought appeared in Jiang Xi's mind. However, he didn't have any intention of entering the palace to look for the inheritance. Because these were only his guesses. If he couldn't pass through the light screen like those soul beasts, then it would be a tragedy. Once he moved, he would definitely attract the attention of the soul beasts. There were 2 immortal Dao soul beasts and hundreds of thousands of soul beasts below the immortal Dao level. Once he woke up, he would really be turned into ashes. There would be no chance of survival at all. If I can leave, it's better to leave. Let's wait a little longer. If there's really no chance to leave, I'll bet on my luck and see if I can enter the palace. He wanted to leave this space as soon as possible. As for opportunities, if he lost his life, why would he care about opportunities? Hurry up. Give me a closer whirlpool. Jiang Xi maintained his calm amidst his anxiety. As time passed, he saw many whirlpools appearing in the valley. However, very few appeared in the air, and even if there were, they were very far away from him. Bang! 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 The sound of the soul beasts hitting the light screen became more and more intense, one after another. Moreover, there were some soul beasts below. It seemed that it was time for them to move. They woke up one after another and walked towards the faint white light screen in the distance. Fortunately, no soul beasts looked up. Otherwise, they would have discovered Jiang Xi directly. Roar! Suddenly, an angry roar sounded below Jiang Xi. Jiang Xi knew that something was wrong. Because a soul beast that was sleeping with its head raised below had woken up. As soon as it opened its eyes, it saw Jiang Xi. Let's go all out. Jiang Xi's spiritual sense detected that a whirlpool had appeared 400 kilometers away. It was the closest one to him. Whoosh! His figure flashed and flew towards the whirlpool. Roar! Roar! Immediately, angry roars sounded one after another. His movement attracted the attention of even more soul beasts. There were even Dao integration soul beasts. These soul beasts were extremely ferocious and pounced towards Jiang Xi. Boom! A late-stage Dao integration soul beast was the fastest and suddenly crashed into Jiang Xi. It instantly sent Jiang Xi flying. Roar! The soul beasts roared excitedly as if they had found a toy. Their blocking action caused Jiang Xi to lose the opportunity to enter the whirlpool 400 kilometers away. In just a second, the whirlpool disappeared. Damn it! Jiang Xi was anxious. More and more soul beasts pounced on him. The only thing that made him heave a sigh of relief was that the 2 immortal soul beasts showed no signs of waking up. It seemed that a nascent soul human like him was not worth mentioning in the eyes of the immortal soul beasts. Swish swish swish. Jiang Xi swung his sword and killed hundreds of soul beasts, but he did not scare them away. Instead, he made these low-intelligence soul beasts even more ferocious. Roar! Roar! The soul beasts roared angrily. Buzz! Waves of spiritual sense attacks also appeared at the same time. Even though Jiang Xi had the visualization image to suppress his sea of consciousness, he was almost unable to withstand this constant spiritual sense attack. I can't wait any longer. This is the last path. He originally wanted to hold on for a while under the siege of the soul beasts and find an opportunity to enter the whirlpool that appeared randomly. But now that more and more soul beasts were trapping him here, he had no way to get close to those whirlpools. The number of soul beasts besieging him increased from hundreds to thousands, and it was still developing towards tens of thousands. If this continued, he would really have no way to survive. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.